Hello, and welcome to The Witcher Series 2, Wilhelm's Cream. Wilhelm's Cream, in fact. This is slightly weird for me because I'm not running the stream. Normally I would be able to be looking and knowing what I look like on stream, and now I'm having a slight moment about this. So, rejoining us from Series 1, we have Hintfishy as Heamus, and we have Nitebytes as Dagraed. So dropping into the body language already, excellent stuff. And new to this stream, although not all new to Hint Plays, of course, we have, going from my left to right, we have Chronomagistrate, and we have Felix. You okay to go with that still?
Yes.
Yep, that's what. That's all right. That's what you use for fishy. I thought, is he going to be awkward? We have Quail.
Hello.
And we have Monti.
Heyo.
Right, new victims. So, after the events of Gallaswine, which involved CSI-style investigations, blackmail, a kidnapping, and a spot of horse trading in trading said kidnapping victim back to her husband.
And I think justified my adding 2 extra points to my Intimidate skill.
Yes, 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 they did. You decided that you were going to leave the place behind you. You had exhausted the possibilities of larcenous acquisition, especially since, while kidnapping, you had, of course, filled your pockets with some of the merchant's goods, specifically those belonging to his late wife.
Yes, that's a good point. I haven't got them on my inventory in fantasy games.
You should always note down things that could be used as a curse trigger for later on.
Oh yes, obviously.
As a curse trigger for later. Wow.
I've just got to figure out where I made a note of them when I nicked them. I think I actually used real paper. So now I've got to hunt through all my notebooks and find out which one.
You have a silver letter knife you nicked off. Well, silver dagger. Sorry, you nicked off the butler. And you have a diamond necklace, if I recall correctly, that you took from the dressing table of the murdered wife.
Yes, that was perfectly reasonable. I was making sure that the evil maid didn't get it. That's what it was. She was clearly going to steal all of the poor woman's stuff and use it for herself.
Well, to be fair, she was trying to steal the poor woman's husband.
Yes, there you go. You see my point precisely. I rest my case.
Yes. And to be fair, at least he did agonise before stealing the murder victim's jewellery. Yes. Okay, I think we just killed Felix.
Sorry.
So,
well, at least he thought about it, so it's fine.
Yes. Dagraed, or rather his twin brother, got in good with Nilgaardian intelligence, to the extent that he then decided he wanted nothing to do with this town anymore because Nilgaardian intelligence also recognised him now. So, the pair of you headed north from Geso, otherwise known as a complete stinking boggy hole full of Nilfgaardians. Your trek north sent you down the river.
Area being full of Nilfgaardians,
says the Nilfgaardian.
Precisely.
Yes.
To be fair, most Nilfgaardians tend to avoid Geso if they can.
Well, yeah,
that's true.
Everybody avoids Geso. The only reason Gallaswine didn't get completely trampled is they largely went, okay, fair enough, through you come. We're not going to do anything to stop you, and in fact, we will profiteer as much as we can. So, you basically headed down the river to avoid, let's call it a war, because it is. And it wasn't like you could head up the Kedweni side of the kingdoms. So you ended up taking a ship because Temeria is full of crap, having recently lost its king and therefore its leadership. The crown is in dispute, and it's essentially not being able to provide any kind of bulwark against the invading forces. So you headed north by boat and have wound up taking passage to Bremervoord in Sidaris. Bremervoord is... You knew it as a seaport because the sailors told you. It was largely, that's where we're going, so that's where you're staying. So, do you have...
I knew there was a reason I stayed away from sailors.
Yeah, the problem is that Bremervoort is there and Skelliger Isles are there.
Yeah. Before we get on to said boat, is there somewhere that I can buy a hat? One with a big brim that will hide my face a lot.
It's like a veil hanging down as well.
Yes, yeah, you can
That would be
indeed.
good.
You can get things like the Witch Hunter's hat from Warhammer.
No, I don't really want one of them. I don't want a hat that attracts attention. I want a hat that doesn't attract attention.
You can
Which is
have
entirely the point of this.
You can have a peaked cap if you wish. You can have, your standard Whippet Hunter's flat cap.
I think what he really wants is one of those wonderful hats they have in areas full of mosquitoes, with like this mesh veil that comes down over the front.
Yeah,
Absolutely
exactly.
ideal. Yes, that kind of
That
thing.
would attract
I
quite
think-
a lot of attention.
Thinking
Or
of
just,
sort of
like,
just thinking of the style of the setting and the era
Yeah.
here, and trying to work out what hat would be best. I think actually I won't have a hat at all. I'm going to buy a hood.
A hood is acceptable, yes.
Yes. I will
one
have
of those
a hood.
hoods with like hanging with the black
With the
half
tassels.
coming typing and just with like
the-
the holes cut out.
The ones with a really, really long, pointy peak at the front, so that it hangs down and hides my face almost entirely.
Yeah.
All you need is to
So
become
not
a
quite
plague
an
doctor.
executioner's hood.
Yeah.
Not quite an executioner's hood.
Mind
almost.
you,
There is
Mind
a
you,
name
I
for
did-
a hood that isn't attached to
yes,
your
there is.
cloak or whatever,
It's
but I
not
can't
the
think what
mantle, is it?
No.
No, the mantle is
The bit around the
jackety
shoulders.
thing.
Mind you, you want to watch Jason Kingsley's Modern History
Yes. That's
about
really
the
good.
hood. He converted one of those. He proved that it was basically the origin of one of the most common styles of hats.
Yeah.
That later on,
Oh,
basically it was-
the chapeau.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
with
the
the
chapeau.
Yeah.
face through the head.
essentially,
hole
yeah,
and everything.
essentially you roll up a
Chaperon.
hood. Chaperon.
That's what it's
that was
called
it.
when it
Yeah.
doesn't have when it's not attached to something
yeah.
else.
It's essentially you roll up the hood into a hat with a roll around the brim. And then he was going, and that's when you realise that what you're wearing is the chapeau. And you're going, oh, shit, yes it is, isn't it? So it's a very versatile garment. So yeah, you can indeed have a nice hood that you can retreat into the shadows
taking
of.
Quick look to see if I can work out how much this is going to cost me.
Fair enough. And the
Carry
ratty
on
can
or
indeed
hunt with the equivalent list.
hide
Nest in the
under
top
your...
of it.
Knowing rats, that'll be straight down his back
Yeah.
and nestled.
Ouch.
Yes. Yeah. My experience with rats teaches me that if there is an ability to tangle your hair, that's what they'll do.
Mhm.
If ever there was a
I-
reason to have short hair, that would be it.
Yes, my way back in the dim and distant, my Michael used to have used to nestle there, just behind my right ear, and to hang on, he would wind his paws into my hair. So taking him off my shoulder was a matter of... Which is generally then when he urinated on me.
Oh, nice, yes.
So
yes.
Thanks.
Given that an entire suit of basic clothing only costs 10 crowns, I'm going to charge myself 2 crowns for this hat. Is that this
Yeah,
shop?
that's fine. That is fine.
At some point, I'm going to have to, I think, sit down and do some price comparisons in this system and adapt my extensive list of clothing items for role-playing games to this price system.
That works. I'm
Because
fine with
I've
that.
never yet known a fantasy role-playing group that doesn't enjoy spending half a session when you're desperately trying to write the next bit of plot just
Going
shopping
shopping.
for clothes.
What do you mean half a session? We've done an entire session on it before.
Right.
True.
I just typed the name Timothy.
Ninja gear.
Yes, you own the dark suit.
I have rogue's clothing. Yeah, it's ninja gear basically.
Basically, yeah. You effectively own ninja gear. It's fine.
Yeah.
How is that not normal?
Perfectly normal.
Yeah, that's why you left it buried under
so
a
this
tree.
is my second hood.
Yes. Yeah, that's more of a form-fitting hood, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that one's a little bit more. Does attract attention in the wrong places.
That's your
Not
formal
the sort of thing
hood,
you
and
can
this
wear in
is
the
your...
high street in the middle of the day.
Yes. Yeah, people tend to notice. Okay. So.
Maybe I could pretend to be a doctor. I could get one of those geeky physician's masks.
I did suggest getting a plague
No
doctor's
one would
mask.
know who I was then.
I mean, it's true.
I mean, there is or was recently a plague, I think.
Yeah,
yes.
Catriona.
Oh, there you go.
That's it,
Yeah.
Catriona.
It was actually recently a second outbreak, I think, as well. Or within the
Yes.
custom.
Temeria, of course, that was one of the other reasons it's completely bollocks, is before their king was assassinated, they got twonked with the plague, which is still buzzing around in the swamps.
Yay.
Yeah, Temeria's a bit screwed, to be honest. Not
Don't
wishing to
have
put
any
too fine a
points
point
in
on it.
disguise yet. Might need to rectify that.
Heamus has no points in disguise.
No,
Were you
well,
just literally wearing a big hat at me?
Dagraed basically the con man. He's the one who has disguise and,
No,
and all of the.
Dagraed does not have disguise.
Does he not have disguise? How are you being two people without the disguise skill?
They're identical twins.
Yes, but they're different.
As things go that need to be quoted,
That
how
comes
are you
under
being
deceit
Yes,
and charisma.
indeed.
Yeah, he got enough charisma to convince them that they are identical
I'm
twins.
going to give myself 1 point in disguise now with an improvement point because I bought a hat.
If I wanted to look like someone that wasn't
1
Dagraed or
point in
Temeray,
disguise.
yes, I would need disguise.
Yeah, it's not so you're not intending to deceive. You're intending to deflect, and that's a charisma.
Yeah, just literally talks people into submission.
Yes, every time.
Yeah. So, I feel that Loic is probably the flip side of Dagraed, if he weren't a criminal.
If it's criminal. Right.
If I were a criminal.
Okay, now you're just going into a whole weird mix-up.
Yes, all of a sudden we have
And-
Nilgaardian on the roof.
And I
Oh.
If I were a criminal.
There'd be a skeleton on the roof. Let's face it, Heamus is the burglar.
Yes, that's true. Heamus is the cat burglar. I am the long con.
Can I make the assumption, by the way, that although we're using just normal cost rather than double cost for skills, for speech
Yeah.
languages, during character creation, in-game there'll probably still be a difficult skill that costs double.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought I'd up my Elder speech since I was using it to speak Elvish as well as...
Yeah, that's fair.
Skellige.
That is your native tongue, though.
Yeah, that is my native tongue.
Yeah.
But Skellige is my native tongue, but Elven also comes under Elder speech.
Yeah.
Which to me seems weird. So because I've been
It's a
practicing the
dialect.
Elven, which is a dialect that I don't
Yeah.
know, I reckon that's it's good reason to up the basic
No, that's
skill
fair.
level. Which is going to burn a lot of my IPs, but it's a role playing point. I want to do it.
My influence spreads far and wide. I've just been told that Alexia is rewatching Jurassic Park because of my streaming the game and is Lavalier. Oh, bless. Oh, dear. I'm just going to poach a name. Why not? Right. So you guys happy now? You've got your hats.
Yes. I'm happy now I have my hat.
You have taken ship.
Hattie.
Hattie the happy. Happy the Hattie. Happy.
Don't think about it too hard. Just carry on.
No.
Hattie the Happy Hat. That's where I was going with that.
That's the episode title.
Nobody can stop me.
Hattie the Happy Hat. Right.
Yeah, I'll show off that you said it first time.
Sorry.
I promise I normally am more organised than this.
I do feel that name probably goes against the generally grim, dark tone of The Witcher, though.
Probably more fitting for Warhammer than...
In order to be properly grimdark, you have to have comparisons. You can't just have all darkness.
I mean, they
without
literally
light
put Handsome
highlighted.
Jack in the Blood and Wine DLC.
Okay. So, you are taking ship from... Really?
Sorry, we're taking a ship from Relier, was that?
Yeah.
Oh, we are screwed.
Apparently, yeah.
Thank you.
Crossover campaign, right. Okay, I get it.
Generally a better idea to take ship from Relier than to Relier, it's got to be said.
It's alright, I've lost Temeria. Not
It's okay, the
something to say
Temerians
often.
have lost Temeria.
Yeah, to be fair.
It's
That's it,
weird that
yes.
way.
Yes, you have avoided Temeria. You would have had to go plough north through there. You have taken ship actually from Sintra, which was getting distinctly hairy for you, because Sintra is effectively under, everybody knows, a puppet government. They have made a strong alliance with Emrys, the Emperor of Nilfgaard. A strong alliance, and he's got a special advisor next to the throne, just helping show them the way of the world. Effectively, at the moment.
Advice.
Yeah, at the moment, Sintra is de facto a Nilfgaardian annexed state. So you decided you wanted to get the hell out of Dodge there. If nothing else, at least one person asked for Dagraed why he wasn't serving.
Which is reason enough for me to want to get the hell out of there.
Yes. So you have bypassed Verdun, which is a genuine swamp and plague-ridden and genuinely horrible, and wound up in Bremervoord. As I said, free city, founded by privateers in the nation of Sidaris, which was run by a former pirate. The king of Sidaris is an ex-pirate who makes no secret of this fact, but is generally deemed a decent king. At least he doesn't get in the way, and he's well liked. The thing that Sidaris does stand for, and that is well known, is that the reason that the Nilfgaardians are having to progress on land is because basically between the Skellige raiders and Bremervoord pirates,
Privateers.
now they're privateers, yeah. Basically, the pass between the Skellige Isles and the continent proper is patrolled by aggressive bastards with cutlasses.
Concerned citizens.
Exactly. Very much citizens' militia
Yeah.
with big cutlasses.
The right to bear cutlasses.
Yeah. And the only alternative is for the Nilfgaardian Navy would have to go deeper west into much more deeper and more dangerous waters, or go by land. Effectively, the navies of the Skellige Isles and Sidaris have locked them down on the sea. So, Bremervoort is therefore relatively safe. And I'm using the term relatively. It's a cosmopolitan city. Largely all are welcome, and people tend to be judged by their deeds. Or at least that's what you've heard. I think we're both really hoping that's not the case.
Still not convinced this was the best idea, you know.
Well, you couldn't get any further north, because then you hit Temeria, which is bollocks, and Redania, which is terrifying.
I don't like being this close to Skellige.
They could have continued further north to Kovia, but
yeah, Kovia is nice, but cold.
Pretty much everywhere seems cold in the world of The Witcher.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Unless you head down to where Blood and Wine is set, which isn't cold, but is full of politicking Mediterranean types who politic quite hard at you.
Redania is full of the cult of fire, so that's going to be warm.
Well, yes, to be fair. And you do, to the east, have, things like you've got the deserts and stuff. So, that's warm. And Zerrikania, that's kind of warm.
I don't quite see Dagraed and Heamus heading to Zerrikania, though.
No, I really don't see them heading to Zerrikania.
It does sound like a long way from Skellige.
It is a long way from Skellige. But they do weird magical rites there as opposed to normal magical rites. They have their own system of magic.
Well, I've always found that if I don't bother the people with the magic, they don't bother me.
When you say always?
Well, for the last 18 years, anyway.
How old is he?
18.
Right. Okay. So, you are... I was about to say parking. Spot the person who doesn't vote.
More?
So we're coming in through the letterbox and docking on pad 7. Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Just gonna parallel park the boat.
Beep, beep, beep. This vessel is reversing. Right, you're on board the... It's got a name. The Icewind Blight. Which purports to be a cargo ship. Certainly, it seems to have quite a lot of space for cargo, but also quite a big crew. One of the reasons that I'm happy to let you learn swordsmanship, Fishy, is that if they figure out that you are practicing such things on a quiet bit of the deck, then at least one of the sailors is going to try and give you some pointers. At least in the, oh my god, he's going to cut his own feet off level.
You need those.
Yep. Traditionally, it's a lot easier. Although I do have prosthetics rules in this game, just saying. Because fumbles happen.
I'm very grateful for the assistance there, because obviously where I come from, this is not the sort of weapon we normally use. I'm having to retrain myself entirely for a completely new style of weapon. These strange little one-handed things like this, it's not right. It should be at least twice as big. He has no skill with any traditional Skellige weapons, by the way, at all. He uses daggers.
Yeah, you're using the untraditional Skellige skill of your mouth to...
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Decidedly unskellige.
Speed is one of his fire stats.
Yes, it is indeed. So, Fishy, should we go with a detect bullshit roll for him?
You want me to roll deceit now, do you?
I want you to roll deceit as the first roll of the session
so the
of
first,
Series 2.
first roll made using fantasy grounds, no less.
Ooh.
Oh, feck off.
If you're going to do a thing.
I think that might do it.
For the purposes of the folks at home, that was a 10, which exploded.
Yeah. Straight to the exploding dice.
For a total of 28.
I really should have had my soundboard open so that I could just send a big explosion across when that happened.
Yeah, unfortunately, the section of Fantasy Grounds I'm capturing isn't the dice and chat section, so that didn't go out, unfortunately.
Sorry. Right. Yes, for the benefit
I need to go through actually and look at one of the two there are two different extensions now for Fantasy Grounds that will let you tie Sirenscape into Fantasy Grounds and have actions in the game in Fantasy Grounds trigger sounds in Sirenscape.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's
Sounds
one
awesome.
written by the guy who did the AD&D 2nd edition rule set, and there's an older one written by somebody else. I've got both. I need to poke at them and see which one I prefer and what I can make work with them.
Standard disclaimer, by the way, I don't mind if people use real dice or want to use the in-game one for the in-app one for Fantasy Grounds. That's fine, or any die roller of their choice. I trust my players because I'm a mug, and I'm happy to manipulate reality if I think they're cheating.
And because if you didn't trust us, why the heck would we be here in the first place?
Exactly.
Precisely.
And I've never really seen the point in cheating in a role-playing game. I mean, it's a cooperative game anyway. You're only cheating yourself, so why bother?
Oh, I have had players do that.
Oh yes, I've played with somebody who cheated all the time. We all knew damn well he did it, but we just let him get away with it anyway because what did it hurt? Apart from that one time that he punched out a Minotaur.
Warhammer, wasn't it?
That was Warhammer, yeah. He just ran over and decked it in a single punch. I let that stand as well because it was so brilliant. The reason he did it was during the sorry for this
No, go for it.
Diversion here, but it was during the big festivities in Power Behind the Throne, I think it was, from the Enemy Within campaign. One of the other characters was doing an arena fight against the Minotaur in one of the events.
Into the cattail.
Yeah, and she was losing horribly, so Dave's character just hurtled into the arena, ran over, and laid out the Minotaur with a punch. And I had to let it stand. I knew the dice were fake, but I had to let it stand. It was so good.
I
He
can
became the
understand
Brad's
that.
champion in the end.
Yeah, didn't he manage to write himself out, basically?
Yeah.
Okay, who's choking?
Really, I apologise.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't something that we actually had to call 999 for.
So yeah, my 28 total deceit skill then, am I going to get away with that one because it's borderline?
Yes, that's fine.
It is the last time I will roll that well today.
Yep. That's just for the fun of it. His exploded. Hang on.
That's not going to be high enough, is it? That 28 is not going to do it.
That's a total of 20.
Phew.
That was close.
Yes. Exploded and then rolled pants. For those who are unfamiliar with the system, this is running on interlock, so it's running on a D10 plus stat plus skill for normal skill rolls. If you're untrained, you simply add 0 for the skill. And if you roll a 10, you re-roll the D10, it explodes. And if you roll a 1, you re-roll the D10, and it explodes negatively. And things can go horribly, horribly wrong.
Like losing your feet.
Don't like that.
Yeah, I've got rules. Yeah, I've got the fumble, the serious and fatal fumbles. Yeah, you can lop your arm off. You can.
It's fine. We have the fancy equivalent of duct tape as a skill. So.
Yep. But as I said, I do have full prosthetics rules. So they do give you a penalty because obviously we're not talking cybernetics here. But
Yet.
yes, yet. No, that's when I run Cyberpunk Red.
Well, that's also an interlock game. So what happens is we just a difference that makes no difference is no difference. So it doesn't matter whether the cyberarm works on advanced cybernetic technology or magic. It's still a cyberarm. As soon as we've got those rules.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I'll make this steampunk. I'll make this setting steampunk if I have to force it.
All we need is someone to dimension hop back and forth a couple of times to pick up certain bits of technology and information, and boom.
Yeah.
No,
Fortunately.
our characters will just fall into stasis and wake up in Cyberpunk Red.
Yeah. Oof. Yes. What woke you up? The nuke. Oh well, never mind.
I mean, the multiverse is canon in The Witcher.
It is. Yep.
Yeah.
Fortunately, about the only person regularly hopping around between different universes at the moment is Siri.
Yeah.
And she brought the plague with her when she did, so you see how well that went.
Yeah, or didn't, as the case may
Hey,
be.
no spoilers, no spoilers. I haven't finished the game yet.
Oh, that's the book.
That's from the books.
Oh, okay. I haven't finished that yet.
Yeah. No, it's yes. Fortunately, on, unfortunately, depending on your point of view, I'm not one of those GMs who likes to put in people from the main media as far as possible, mainly because what happens when the players decide to kill them?
Yes, we will kill Geralt of Rivia.
Yeah, that,
because we can.
Yes, rocks fall, all die.
Out of spite.
That's something I haven't got. I haven't got Chatty up. And you was missing something.
Yeah, I opened that just after we went live.
It's okay. I opened Chatty just after Jick said, it still says wars.
Yeah, I opened it just before that.
Oopsie.
And the reason I opened it is because Jick said that and I had to go change it.
Sorry. Yes, I should have done that, sorry.
It's cool.
No, it's not. No, don't. Oh, I've got way too many people in my automatically pop up the windows for Chatty. So I think I've got 9.
I did have quite a few, and then I did something wrong and they all closed. So I'm having to gradually reopen them. Eventually, I'll get back up to that number again. I've only got 3 in there at the moment.
Fairy cake. Okay. So yes, it's a sunny but rather chilly day, which you're quite familiar with, Heamus. It's one of the reasons that you left Skellige. The wind apparently comes straight off the ice, and the sun blinds you. But it's a lovely day. Oh, hello, there were peoples. All of a sudden, Chatty just went and updated who was in the chat, because I thought, oh, it's really quiet. Oh, no, it's not. Okay. There are even people in it who aren't in the game. I know, try not to faint.
That's one of the reasons to have a lot of players in your game. It makes the chat look busy.
Oh, yeah.
It really does. So, yes. The Icewind Blight is guided remarkably gently. The captain knows his trade. Into dock, and various of the crew leap off and start doing arcane things with ropes, which Heamus saw people doing on the boat. That would be after he jumped onto one to get off Skellige, and just before he jumped off the boat, because otherwise they were going to make him work.
Yeah. I've used this second experience of being on a boat to justify having 1 point now in sailing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You've watched other people do it.
Before. He didn't. Yeah, he wasn't on the boat long enough to learn last time, but now he's had a second trip. He's actually picked a couple of things up.
Yeah. Guides it into the dock, and you and the cargo being given precedence.
Figures.
Yes.
There's no way to talk about Dagraed.
Dagraed has provoked a couple of sideways glances because his accent really is quite noticeable.
Yes, both of them are.
Which accent?
Yeah. It's kind of obvious that he's Nilgaardian, but at the moment, because he's travelling with someone who clearly isn't, possibly Skellige, judging by the accent, but the disguise is just so astonishing.
I didn't roll disguise. I only rolled deception.
Yeah. He's largely being treated reasonably. Let's put it this way: they wouldn't let you near the armory.
It's okay. I would not know which end of a sword to hold if I had to.
Yes.
Yep.
Apparently it's this end. So this chap over here was just telling me.
Well, that's nice. Maybe you can show me one day.
Yes, the guy who was teaching you swords, by the way, was by the name of Calumet.
This bit.
He said holding it by the blade to demonstrate.
Well, so long as he's holding it by the
actually
blade.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, as long as you're holding it by the blade, you're fine. It's if you then pull it. Don't do
Your hand's
that.
not a sheet.
No, don't do that. Half swording does not mean that you chop off half your hand.
Oh, but it did. I was wondering why it wasn't called half-handing.
Yes. Half swording, otherwise known as the world's biggest can opener. Right. Sorry, I'm looking forward to doing that. So, yes, the guy who taught you is a sailor by the name of Calumet. If you're interested. If you're not interested, he may turn up again. Depends if I sink the ship. Who has... Oh, for goodness sake. There are too many windows open. And as a result, I end up typing in the wrong one.
If anybody's wondering, the reason I lean right forward when I'm typing like this is because it's the only way I can even remotely see the keyboard past my cat.
Yes, cats are
right.
troublesome like that.
Yeah, generally quite opaque.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not sure I'd want a transparent cat.
It depends how much of it was transparent. I mean, if it was just the outer part, then probably no, you wouldn't.
I'm the invisible cat. I'm the invisible cat. How you can't trip over me.
Calumet, righto.
Yes. C-H-A-L-M...
Right, I spelled that completely.
Yeah, that wasn't the spelling I was thinking of either.
No, that's... I've got to...
By way of thanks, I will teach him a swear word in Elven or something.
That's fair. He has the most outrageous accent, you see.
He's going to learn how to taunt, is he?
He is going to taunt you in French. What he's actually going to taunt you in is... My brain always forgets. Toussaint, that's where he's from.
Toussaint.
He is from Toussaint. So, yes, he uses Calumet, but you get the distinct impression it's probably supposed to be Chalamet.
Chalamet, yeah.
He's just given up after all these years of correcting people and just gone like, with it. So yes, he has a noticeable but not ridiculous Toussaint accent. And opinions about wine, judging by dinner, which of course was all taken together. He has opinions about alcohol. So, you can disembark, and Calumet will indeed offer you a little baby salute, and don't hurt yourself.
I will resist the temptation to throw a stiletto at him.
Don't do that!
Yeah,
Please don't kill my NPCs.
Very good at not getting into fights I can't possibly win.
Yes, not yet.
Don't kill the NPCs that aren't intending to kill you.
Yeah.
I actually wrote that up earlier in a baby GM's guide to how to get going. And it was step 1, describe what they can see. Just because you've got the rest of the map, don't tell them what they can't see.
Yeah. That's always something you see it a lot with. I watch an awful lot of actual play streams, and you see it a lot that the GM explains things that the players and characters have no way of knowing. Like, what's on the other side of this door? What is this NPC thinking? How do you know? Are you playing a telepath?
Yeah. Yeah. Step 2, is there anyone to talk to? Step 3, is anything trying to kill you? If the answer is yes, this will take precedence over most of step 1.
Yeah. Difficult to notice the people when there's an ogre charging at you.
Yes, exactly. Right. So you disembark. The cargo goes first. The cargo seems largely to be goats, as far as you can tell. It's livestock, roped together and led down the gangplank.
That's actually way more familiar than the boat is.
Yes, he grew up on a farm, didn't he?
Indeed, he did.
It's good to know that you're not abandoning the terrible, terrible accent for Heamus.
This is
It,
this is Heamus. He wouldn't be Heamus if he didn't sound like this.
Which is fair. Same problem I've got in wars, yeah. So, yes, after the cargo, the boxes and the goats have headed down, the passengers are allowed to leave. Purely for their own safety, of course. And you are accompanied down the gangplank by a few people. There are a couple of middle-aged ladies who, one of them you never saw at dinner, and is approximately £5 lighter than when she boarded the ship with you. So you get the distinct impression has not had a good voyage at all.
oh dear.
The other one's looking quite smug.
Probably for the same reason.
They have a gentleman who runs up the gangplank and picks up the two boxes, one each that they came with, trunk under each arm, and goes sprinting off as though it doesn't weigh anything. Scary dude.
I was about to say, was he sort of really big and burly?
Not particularly burly, very, very tall. But judging by how easily he lifts the trunks, to be honest, you're fairly sure you just wouldn't want to. Yeah, safer not to. You could call him lanky, but possibly not a good idea.
Possibly not to his face.
Yep. And they then head down the gangplank and to a waiting carriage. You're then not elbowed aside, but pushed past gently by a young and slightly stressed looking man who sprints down the gangplanks, has a large leather satchel over his shoulder, sprints down the gangplank, as soon as he hits the cobbles, just drops to his knees and mutters something under his breath, which you can just about catch. Does anybody have any religious skills?
Don't be silly. Are there any religious skills?
There are.
Good lord.
Well, kind of. It's a knowledge thing.
I don't even have education to fall back on. I grew up on a farm in Skellige.
Okay.
Despite being Nilfgaard, I don't have education to fall back on either.
Yeah, it's the wrong culture, basically. Both of you are from the wrong culture. So he falls to his knees and mutters something under his breath. Visibly takes a large breath and stands up, arms out as if to stop himself overbalancing.
Someone's got to get his land legs back.
Yep. So, you guys disembarking?
It would be unsafe to stay aboard, I believe, so yes.
Yeah, looking around as I head towards the gangplank for the first place I think we can disappear. Whether it be a crowd where no one will notice us, suitable shadows, whatever. Just we want to be inconspicuous as soon as possible.
Yes.
Okay. Right, there's not actually a huge crowd. You've arrived quite early in the morning, and while there are a couple of fishing vessels which are selling off their catch further down the quay, there's not actually many crowds on the dock themselves. You've got things like, obviously, herdsmen and possibly a butcher are taking possession of the goats. But it's not really that density that you were hoping for. The carriage has headed off down a wide open road, but there is an alley leading off between two blocks, possibly one kind of warehouse and one which might be residential, off to the right hand side, which rather promises a better experience in the vanishing stakes. And coincidentally,
I think
young Leather Satchel is already headed off there with a purpose.
that fella may be going in the right direction. We can vanish in that alley much more easily than standing out here in the middle of nowhere.
Do believe you're right. Lead on, my friend.
By the way, I promise you
Away
guys
we go,
will
then.
be getting in on this game.
Don't worry about it. I'm just sitting here rereading my backstory over and over again.
Yeah, I do feel bad about leaving you guys hanging. So I apologise.
Don't worry. I'm sure there is an appropriate denouement for it.
There is a moment, yes. Right. So, you head into this alley. You're on large flagstones, which, having come from, the fairly crap beaten earth paths and roads of Gallaswine, is horrible. It's nice by comparison. But your feet were a lot louder on these than you're accustomed to. You're going to have to get the hang of this.
Is this because you're asking for a stealth roll?
On stone.
Sorry, Fish?
I come from Skellige. I'm used to trying to be sneaky on stone. Most of Skellige is stone, let's face it.
No, you're used to trying to be sneaky on stones.
Whereas most of Nilfgaard is cobbled.
Yep. Yes. Nilfgaardian cobblers.
Oh, cobblers to Nilfgaard.
Yeah.
Yep. It's like doors to manual. Cobblers to Nilfgaard.
I think it's more like coals to Newcastle.
Okay. As you head down the alley, which is shaded at this time in the morning, the sun clearly has not yet made it round.
Good.
You hear the unmistakable sound of fist on meat.
I'm sorry, say that again. The unmistakable sound of...
Hey, look, I described it exactly as you can hear it, mate.
No, I wasn't sure I heard you clearly.
Yes, fist on meat.
As in Rocky doing the training in Rocky 3.
Let's go with that.
Okay.
That was exactly what I was meaning to.
Felix and I are on the same wavelength.
Oh yeah, God, I'm dying. Oh, luckily I have a fast mute button, so no one has to read through my laughing. Carry on.
That
Okay,
sounds
Tentacle.
interesting.
The alleyway bends round slightly to the right, so whatever's happening is happening just around the bend, out of your field of immediate view.
Given that the sun hasn't risen,
Sorry.
given that the sun hasn't fully risen, I'm guessing there are shadows that might obscure our vision of the. So I'm going to sneak up and sort of try and cut my head around the corner, see if I can see what's going on without being.
And press Q.
Yes. Yep.
Up to the corner. Lean.
Yeah, and then you accidentally lean in the wrong direction first, so you see more wall, and then you. Yeah.
Or if you're me, you remapped your controls. So what you actually do is you trigger a lightning bolt.
Or you just never lean, just walk forward and then look back again.
Been there,
You
done
clearly see me playing Siege, leaning the wrong way and seeing more walls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and you can amazingly lead all the way out, and yet nobody will see you unless if you step one pixel to the left.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alarm!
As soon as you press D, it's over.
Yeah, because okay. So, I would like you guys to make me a sneak roll. I need to open the character sheet
Stealth.
because it's actually driving me around the bend.
Stealth.
That would be
Actually, that still wasn't
20.
bad. I was expecting terrible after the last one. 20 also.
Not bad.
Spoiling all my fun, you lot.
We're criminals.
The
That's what we
criminals
do.
are able to be sneaky. Who would have thought?
Fine. Like, fine, dude. Let's not open that PDF. That's not the PDF we really need to be opening. It's one nice thing about not doing the stream myself this time. I don't have to worry about accidentally dumping something
One less thing to worry about.
embarrassing onto screen. Such
Yeah,
as
instead
the
it's
time
me
when
that's worried about that.
Such as the time when it gave away the fact that yes, I was indeed making up names on the spot because I have a baby name generator open.
Doesn't every GM have that open anyway?
Well, yeah.
No, you see, what I usually do is I do that beforehand, so I just have a sheet of names, and that means it looks like you're prepared, but it's really just a pre-generator.
Yep.
It's a good tactic, that. Just have a list of names handy. Just cross them off as you use them.
It does.
Or don't do that and forget about it. But
And then everyone's called Bob.
Yeah, and then people get the same name. That's okay, because it happens in real life. I mean, how many people called Dave have I met?
Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, as a gaming group, we are actually really, really unusual.
Because everyone has different names.
We haven't got a Dave.
Yeah.
The first serious group I played with, I was the fourth member of the group. They'd lost their fourth, so they invited me in to play. 2 of the 3 players were called David.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
It's like Oscar in Sweden.
Yeah. Now I know something different. Okay, so yes, we are looking at. It is indeed. Stealth, yes. You got 20, and they got not 20. So
the alternative is over preparing and naming everyone in a scene, regardless of whether or not they get talked to or not.
Which is unfortunately, if you're me, how you end up with Bob, Tom, Jack, Harry.
I am very much with you on that.
Yeah. Having to name all the sons in that crime family, that was not.
Felix, doesn't your character have like 8 siblings?
Yeah, but you see, it took me so long to choose my name, so I used to use the names I didn't use for me for my siblings. I only got 2 females, so it's fine.
I've only named one of my siblings, actually.
See, you've all got siblings. This is why Dagraed has this fake twin thing going on, because he had no siblings, and I felt left out. Right, I'll create my own.
I mean, it's not that much is cut off. I mean, I named one of my brothers Broor, so.
Fair enough. Right.
To be honest, Dagraed, you're welcome to me and Colin. You can have them. I don't want them.
Are they the ones who actually want you dead?
Those are the ones who want me dead, yeah.
Fair. Right. And hello, Shard, by the way. So, leaning around the corner, keeping to shadows.
Leaning around a cat's tail, apparently.
Yes, both. He's just giving you a shadow to lean round.
That's it, yeah. I've got stealth.
He is a void with teeth and eyes. We know this. And vocal cords.
Yeah.
You lean around the corner, both instinctively sticking to shadows, and see the young man with the satchel half doubled up against the wall with 3 guys standing over him. One who looks like he was more constructed than born, apparently from lumps of leather and possibly bricks, judging by what's coming through his tunic. One slightly weedy guy who looks part rat and who is cleaning his nails with a very sharp looking stiletto. And one who is dressed almost like sort of middle class merchant. Very, very smart. Dagraed, if you were dressing, I'm trying to remember your other... Tamray. If you were dressing for Tamray, that's the sort of level you'd be going at. Sort of very, very smart and relatively fashion conscious. quite impressively so.
So not that one's probably not getting involved in the physicality of it. It's more
that one is
direction.
definitely not getting involved in the physicality of it. However, he is leaning in to the young man, has one hand on his shoulder, and with a pleasant smile on his face, is saying something to him. Are you guys going to try and listen in?
Yes.
If I can do so without leaving where I am and getting any closer to them, I will certainly strain my ears.
Okay. Strain away, dear. Strain
It's
away.
awareness, isn't it?
It is. Strain away, strain away.
I was thinking that's.
Can we just practice paranoia on this as well, or instead of, or?
No, because they're
Well-
not actually setting a trap for you.
Bang it. Okay.
It's only paranoia if it's true.
Well, I didn't explode low.
Vice versa.
14.
It's only paranoia if it's not true.
Yeah.
There we go.
Unfortunately, you're looking, I believe,
19.
at 15. Okay. Dagraed. Heamus can hear odd words, but isn't really getting enough. But Dagraed, slightly different angle, can also see the guy's mouth, and you can put together what he's saying. And what he's saying is, all you have to do is give us the recipe. Then all this goes away. We know you've got it. And that's pretty much how he's saying.
A gift receipt.
It's not going to be any use to you now. And the young man looks up and says, "Plough you." At which point the large gentleman hits him again in the stomach.
Oh, that sounded like it hurt.
I think we took a wrong turn. Maybe the other way was better after all.
Right. Let's give them an awareness check. Because I think you two may be enough to trigger practice paranoia. Everybody in this
We're
bloody
not planning
alley
to
at the
ambush
moment.
anyone.
Yeah,
You've
we
just
have
got to
no
book the
intention
shadows
of
in
getting
advance,
involved
that's all.
in this at all.
That's a nope. That's a nope. Oh, for God's sake. Okay, the guy who's made of leather is apparently, I don't know, short-sighted and possibly deaf.
I'm sure he's focused on the task at hand.
Yes,
That's
yes,
what
he
it is,
also
yeah.
rolled a 1.
Mhm.
And
Very
Very
focused.
focused.
the guy himself, that's actually an explosion. Oh, okay, yeah, that is an explosion. Okay, it's legit rolls as well. So, the guy who's being beaten No, it isn't. Not a million miles off, but not it isn't. He bends over, and as he does, he catches a glimpse and meets Dagraed's eyes. And gasps out, "Sir, help, please!
Oh, heck.
I can pay you! Please!" And the guy beating him gives him a backhand across the face.
I suggest you pay them. We've got an urgent appointment somewhere else.
I can't give what they're asking.
I don't see how that's my problem.
Please. I invoke the law of surprise. Please, sir.
You can invoke whatever you want. That just doesn't mean a thing to me. Look, gentlemen, let's just make something very clear here. I don't know what your business with this fella is, apart from too noisy for your own good at this time of day in a relatively crowded area. But it obviously has nothing to do with us. So really, we just want to be going from here where we are to over there where we're not, and you're kind of in the way. So could you hurry it up and get out of the way?
My friend speaks largely truth.
And what do you have to say about it?
Say about what precisely?
Well,
my friend speaks truth. We are here. We desire to be there. We are not. Simply stand aside and let us pass.
Please help. The guy against the wall has basically just collapsed to his knees. Obviously, his diaphragm has taken way too much damage for this. I don't take orders from foreigners.
Look, obviously, whatever your business is nothing to do with us, and obviously, we don't want to get involved in it because your friend there is a bit on the big side. I can't help noticing, and it's not like I'm one of those mad Skellige berserk bastards who just like to have fights for the fun of it. Can I roll intimidate, please?
Yes, you can.
He said with a large sword, presumably strapped to your back or waist.
It's actually just a normal sized sword, really, isn't it?
It's a long sword.
It's not a two-hander.
Oh, it's an arming sword then, yeah.
Okay.
But that's still 3 feet.
Doesn't have the stats for a two-hander, so it's probably on his hip rather than on his back. Intimidate. I'm not brilliant at intimidate, especially when I roll like that.
Okay.
So that's an 11. That's not enough to intimidate anyone except the guy already on the floor.
Okay. Let's see what. No.
Please tell me that's a one that exploded to a.
So
that is a legit. That's no fudging. That is an honest to God
hey,
one.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
So is this opposed by? Is this opposed by resist coercion?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, it is. I'm just rolling his resist coercion fumble.
Okay.
Don't mind if he's human. Don't humans get a bonus on resist?
They do, but so do you. I think you get a bonus to intimidate.
I'm not sure which ones we get a bonus to. Didn't think.
I think it was.
But it might be.
It's seduction, persuasion, and something else if you're dealing with your own.
Oh, it is
Charisma, seduction, and persuasion.
Seduction is a flat +1, yeah.
Yeah.
That's -7. That's not how that was supposed to go.
Such is life.
Oh, no, it's okay here.
Yeah.
Sorry, pardon, what?
I don't know because
that might be.
Yeah, that might well be a thing. Yeah, I will call you back. How weird.
While you solve technical difficulties, I am going to be back in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Right back.
So yeah, the resist coercion thing for humans, up to 3 times per game session, a human can roll a failed resist coercion or courage.
Ooh. Right, okay. I don't have to put up with the fumble. Because that was a -7 and stuff that for Game of Tiddlywinks.
Yeah, even 11 beats that.
So that's based on. Hang on. Are you back in the room?
Yes.
Have you completely rearranged all the windows? Yes.
Yeah, no, it's super weird, but okay, I'll just get my bearings.
That's okay.
That has
Everybody's
rearranged all the
in
windows.
different
Oh,
places.
I know
It
why.
has.
Dang it.
No.
Oh yeah. No, everything's all willy-nilly.
Right, so that's his will. Oh shit. Oh no, that's only 10.
And he has to take the second roll no matter what, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he can take the better of the two, but that
-7
is the better of the two.
is the alternative. So yes, the leader, unfortunately, only rolled a 3, which gives him a 10.
That's brilliant.
Fantastic.
I can't believe Heamus just intimidated somebody.
Yeah.
And the really cool thing is, I spent, because I reckon I was using intimidation badly against the elf in the last scenario, I did spend some IP on it. So I would have failed that if I hadn't spent the IP from the last scenario.
Brilliant. The annoying thing is, this guy has quite the good intimidate, but he's got a pants resist coercion. Because that's not his job.
Yeah, he can dish it out, but he can't take it. So
exactly.
common.
Indeedy. Reshuffle everybody. So everyone's now in different places. But I'm not streaming, so I don't care.
It's not your problem.
Yeah, not my problem for once. Right. Okay. So yeah.
Obviously, to make this work, along with the actual line, Heamus is going to have to boldly stride round the corner, not actually approaching them, but coming out of the concealed position that he's in at the moment.
Yeah.
And as Heamus strides out, I'm going to come out with him.
Right. Yeah, that's not how this was going to go. So.
Up until the guy saw us, I was all set to turn around and walk the other way.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So the guy who's clearly in charge takes several steps back from Heamus, which coincidentally puts him just behind the shoulder of the guy who's the lumpy chap who's beating up the
coincidentally.
Victim. Yeah. Just go away. It's none of your business.
I can't help noticing that you've changed your tune slightly. A moment ago it was, I don't take orders from foreigners. Now it's none of your business.
Well, it's not any of your business. And this is purely business.
Right. It's absolutely not my business. I'm sure there's some people whose business it is, though. Those people probably have uniforms and badges and stuff like that, and they might be quite interested in it. So I'm wondering, what's it worth to your business for us not to make this our business?
Please, sir. Comes the slightly whimpering cry from the ground.
About this point, can I make a sleight of hand as well?
You can.
Because I have my stiletto kept in a sleeve sheath. And
yes.
I just want to be suddenly holding a knife with a blade with no idea where it came from.
Go for it. It's not the first time.
And that was me thinking that I was going to try and casually draw while standard arm movement of walking and do a sleight of hand from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere during that conversation about this becoming our business, suddenly there's a stiletto in Heamus's hand.
If Dagraed wishes to do that while doing the whole arm comes past the leg. Okay.
Oh, okay, 21. It exploded and then gave me a 1.
I thought you were frightened there for a moment.
Yeah, I was just wondering, should be dialing 999.
No, I was like, okay, it's given me a 10 and then a 1.
Okay.
So 21 in total.
So yes, basically on one stride, Heamus has palms his stiletto straight out of his sleeve sheath, and on the next stride, Dagraed smoothly picks up his dagger, isn't it?
Dagger, yeah.
From his hip sheath, and suddenly you're both armed. The guy with the stiletto, the ratty-looking chap, actually jumps. There's a sneer on the well-dressed younger man's face.
Now, you can take that sneer of yours and turn it someplace that's not here. You know the reputation of the Skellige. You know how well trained the Nilfgaard are. Do you really think we're that bothered with what we see here if you really want to make it physical? You could just turn around and leave. It's none of our business. We won't bother you. I advise that course strongly.
So, does he have anything in Intimidate?
Deceit? Persuasion?
Yeah, you are deceit in this case. You are fronting like a good one.
Deceitful, yes.
Yes, you were deceitfully attempting this.
This is where I get the crap wrong now.
Yeah.
Not too bad. 19.
Yeah. Okay. It didn't roll badly, but he didn't roll 19. So, his eyes dart between the two of you. We can finish this later. Can't we, dear? We'll be back to see you later, Adelard. And with one final half-hearted shove, he gesticulates and the other two fall in behind him as he strolls carefully and definitely not slightly faster than he really should further around the corner to the end of the alley and disappears.
So, mainly for the benefit of them leaving rather than Adelard, did you say his name was?
Yes.
But nevertheless,
Abelard,
we'll see what
Abelard
does about it. Anyway, Heamus will say, well now, since they're not here anymore, I think you owe us for our delay.
He's clearly starting to get his breath back. Pulls himself up on the wall. I do, sir. I don't have anything worthwhile on me right now. But if you come with me,
The law of surprise was mentioned.
Yeah. Right. Let it never be said that the Skeins don't pay their debts. Thank you, sir.
Well,
he's actually saying thank you to Dagraed. I saw you on the ship. You're clearly good people. Thank you. He's such a poor judge of character.
He's a very poor judge of character.
Poor judge of character. Yeah, if you follow me, I'm headed back to my uncle's, and yeah, law of surprise.
Is your uncle's near anywhere we can get a drink?
Yes.
And some decent lodgings.
Well, yes. He owns an inn.
Excellent.
Oh, wow. I think we've fallen on our feet there, Dagraed.
At the least, you've earned yourself drinks and a place to stay tonight. After you've helped me, thank you.
Right.
I can think of no way to nip off ahead and murder his uncle so that he gets home to find he's unexpectedly inherited the inn.
says the cat burglar that can sneak. Oh yeah, you don't know where the uncle's is.
No. Unfortunately, no. You don't know the town. Okay, he leads you out of the end of the alley and through a large marketplace, which is kind of crowded. If you were still looking for somewhere to disappear, this would probably do the job.
This would do it nicely, yeah.
The quality of the housing around the docks is, as you might expect, not ramshackle poor, but it's clearly transient, so it's lodging houses rather than normal residential properties. There are people wandering back and forth, but the quality of housing picks up considerably. You're not exactly wandering into a high-class district, but you're wandering into a normal, sort of reasonable neighbourhood.
Tamray might, but Heamus wouldn't know what to do in a high-class district.
Steal?
Well, yeah.
He wouldn't know how to look inconspicuous in a high-class district.
Okay. So you are led down several turns. Keeping track is going to be interesting. For once, you've actually got road signs.
Excellent. That's a switch from the last place.
Yes, you have.
Don't know that I can actually read though, can I?
You have shingles,
That's
which
unfortunate.
then
We can see a doctor,
later,
right?
you have wooden shingles with the names burned into them nearer the docks. But as you move away from the docks, you're into baked ceramic tiles with painting, which are screwed high on various buildings as you go through. So,
It's
and no
almost like
touching.
civilization.
Yes. This is actually starting, you are feeling a lot happier here, Dagraed.
Absolutely.
There's unlikely to be wild dogs and things.
Yet somehow I still keep looking over my shoulder.
Somehow you still keep looking over your shoulder. Not like I would have smuggled the dog onto the ship, obviously.
Of course not.
I think that's the only reason the dog isn't here.
What,
No, I think the dog did smuggle itself on the ship, and it just hasn't found us yet.
I think actually that if we check at some point on the YouTube channel, Drut will have released a voyage thing, a stream of how the dog found us here, travelling cross country.
Yes.
Probably meeting up with a raccoon along the way
No,
and making friends with a bear.
That's actually going on my coffee. I'm going to incredible. I am going to incredible journey.
Oh my god! Our dog is now the littlest hobo.
I'm just picturing like the thing from the Emperor's New Grove with Kronk and the map, but by all accounts, it makes no sense.
And now we found out what Drut's going to do with the title "The Littlest Murder Hobo" that we came up with the other day.
Yes, in addition to the T-shirt, which I'm halfway through designing.
Oh, the jaunty theme music.
Yes, there's a voice keeps on haunting me. Yeah, I used to watch it, sue me.
So did I.
Along with Benji, Zax and the Alien Prince. That was confusing to a child.
So we head through this marketplace.
Yep. Yes, several
in the
turns
hope
away.
of finding some other player characters.
Yes. And you turn and are facing a building that stands alone. You're not talking tenements, but most of the other ones are terraces. But there is a standalone building of stone with a wooden upper floor. Gates, solid wooden gates leading down either side of it. And a sign painted remarkably well, for it's not going to win any art competitions, of a gold coin. Clearly, no, don't go there. Nearly, it's going to be, but it does also fit what goes on in there.
Yeah.
Of a hand and a spinning gold coin. So it's flipped.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
It's
and
like
underneath,
tossed in the air.
yes, underneath is the name of the inn, and I am happy to say that the inn is indeed the Tossed Coin.
Nice one, Fishy.
Yeah, well, when you said that, I kind of had to. So, there's nobody outside, but the doors stand open. And you are led in. Right. And this is where everybody else is. Yay.
The party meet in a tavern.
The party meet in a tavern. Yeah. Well, if you're going to do a cliche, do it properly.
Indeed.
So
Take
now
2 hours to get there, and then.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you've played Numenera, mate. It took us
Oh, yeah.
3 sessions
Oh, yeah.
to get off the boat.
I think I was part of the problem as well.
Right, can everybody see that picture?
No,
What?
where am I looking?
Where?
If you look in images and maps,
The easiest way to do it is if you go into images and maps,
Yes.
open the picture yourself and share it. Even though it's already been shared, it should open it.
how do I share it?
Right click
make
and
sense.
the voice that's sort of broadcasting.
Oh,
it.
there we go.
It's on the radial menu, but I can't see it because I'm
Yeah,
at the
no, there
GM,
we go.
so-
Share sheet.
Oh,
There you go.
Oh,
excellent.
Okay.
And for those of you watching the stream, it's the big picture in the bottom left.
Okay.
Cool.
So, what you walk into is a serious-looking man in a serious-looking suit of doublet and trews. Sits in the centre chair on the long table, the one facing the door.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else in the party, everybody else currently on stream.
I mean, what's the word? Freeze a crowd, force a party.
Yeah,
So.
has found seats on the round chairs, the round tables, which have been arranged purely for the day, so that they are between the door and the long table. The long table itself is covered in sheafs and piles of paper. And as he walks in, Abelard stops as if he's just run into a brick wall. So, would you guys like to please describe who is sitting at what table and what you look like? Give Heamus and Dagraed an idea of the locals.
Sure, who first?
Chrono is at the top.
I'm guessing the three of us will probably be at one table.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm assuming so much.
So, Heamus
Go
and
never after work drinks.
Drinks are available, yeah.
So, Dagraed and Heamus will see a table with three people sitting around it. One human, and both of you are dwarves, aren't you?
No, I'm human.
also
you're
human.
human.
We're all human.
We're all
Okay.
humans.
Everyone's
Wow.
human.
One human and two
I
humans.
might be short.
Okay. For some reason, I thought both of you dwarves.
No,
I
we're just
think-
very good craftsmen. That's professionalism.
Yes.
Thinking all craftsmen has to be dwarves.
There's some profiling going on. They're a craftsman. They must be a dwarf. That's profiling.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's profiling.
So three
How can
humans.
we work with you?
Three humans sitting around a table conversing. For myself, actually, let me actually get my description up. Where is
Sudden
my
human
caption?
invasion.
Yeah.
We were human all along.
Real humans were the friends we made along the way. No, wait, hang on.
Loic knows notices after 6 years that his colleagues are human.
So, for my part, you see a well-dressed man in his late 30s that you would reckon. His clothing, his hair, and such, everything looks reasonably stylish, but maybe not the utmost height of fashion. He is wearing some discreet jewelry. You see a few rings on his fingers as he's gesturing while he talks. Short, sandy blonde hair. And if you are able to hear conversation over the crowd, you do detect a soft, friendly accent.
Okay, there's not it's not a big hubbub.
Mhm.
People are talking, but they're talking in relatively subdued voices. So, moving on, let's go
Looks
for
like this
Monti.
guy at the table is holding court.
That's a
Right.
bit.
Also, human seems to be like mid-20s. It's a bit hard to tell.
Seems to
Long,
be.
like, yeah. I mean, I can't tell people's ages. I'm not expecting people.
Yeah,
to
it's that matter like between 18 and 30,
Yeah.
where it could be
Yeah.
whatever age.
Yeah, know exactly what you mean, mate.
Long light brown hair, braided back, green eyes, kind of large eyes, and she's wearing like kind of clothes that definitely look like she's been working in them all day, and definitely because it's decently hot out, and she is not like gearing up for cold weather at all, and she's got like a bunch of like mismatched like trinkets and various buttons and tools, just like in belts and like various like buttonholes and hooks all over her clothes wherever they seem to fit. And she is looking kind of not grumpy, but not very approachable either.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, Quail.
Okay. Juniper, she's sat in the back corner, so she's sat in a kind of shaded table. She's human too. A whole death of humans.
Yep.
She is an old-looking lady. She wears an eye patch over her right eye. She has shaved sides of her hair, and the remaining hair is very bright silver, and it comes down to about just below her shoulders and is plaited. And she's got a whole load of like grasses and weird green things all plaited in there, so she looks like a bush. Basically. She looks like a grouchy, grumpy plant lady, which is pretty much what she is.
Okay, well, it makes a change from mud.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Felix.
Yeah. So human male, he's sitting along with the other two humans that are not sitting alone, obviously, because the two and other three sitting there. He also seems to have like his clothes show a lot of wear, and he also has like the typical suit, like he's been working on them, if not for days, then for weeks, possibly. Like they are repaired, they're held together, but they are repaired several times over. Very well repaired, but still repaired. And not that much color, but he does have like some bright colored piece of fabric like around like a little banana around his neck, one around his wrist, and just like one hanging from his belt. Seems to have been used as wiping his hands on, because there's a lot of soot on things on that one as well. Short dark hair. Seems to also be somewhere between the ages of these two.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Knight.
Yeah, so sitting in a slightly more isolated set, I won't specify a corner, but certainly away from other people.
He's got his own table,
yeah, on his own table.
His own
There's a
darkness.
fairly bulky looking human chap. Difficult to tell whether the bulk is just the fact that he's wearing big, heavy winter clothing, or that there is some actual genuine bulk under there. Looks to be in his late 20s, early 30s. Facially tattooed. He's got a hood up, so you can't see what his hair's like. But he's got facial tattoos. You would estimate it's down maybe 5'10", 5'11". Fairly stocky. Looks like he's fairly swarthy and of a wind-beaten type.
Okay. And since he's resident here, he's not going to have, it's not a you carry your backpack everywhere you go. I'm assuming things like the walking staff are left in the room.
Yep.
Okay. Fishy.
Also point to note that I do also have tools like strapped to several like.
Fair enough. Yes, these are
important.
worth money, and I always have them with me. Okay. You've got your lucky screwdriver.
Yeah, it's important.
You are the definition of going equipped.
Okay, can I check this business of the tables having been rearranged and the chap in the middle there? Does that mean that we've all got to be that side of the table? Or because if not, then Blake will be at the bar?
Blake can be at the bar. All the tables have been moved to the door side of the room. However, the bar is still the bar. And there is indeed one of the barmaids is there.
In that case, there is a rugged-looking man with short-cropped hair, probably somewhere in his 30s, but he looks like he has lived a lot.
He's been around the block several times.
Standing at the bar, despite the early hour, he has a mug of ale in front of him, and depending on how fastidious the barkeep is, there may be 2 or 3 empties, or they may have been cleared away, or they may just be refilling the same one. But
he'll be getting refills in the same one. The place
also,
is
despite being
clean.
in the bar and it being quite near the fireplace, in fact, if he's actually at the bar itself, he is wearing a quite voluminous cloak, though it's swept back for the moment.
Okay.
And underneath it, his garb is that of very much a man of arms. He is wearing brigandine and has if I'm remembering correctly, the cord is a cutlass. So something that Heamus and Dagraed have seen a few of recently, hanging from his belt. He doesn't appear to be paying any attention to anyone in the room who doesn't serve alcohol.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, I rolled an addiction. I decided to go with an easy one.
Yep. Yep. That works. That's fine. Right. So now I just need to check that I have actually named everybody.
That description was based on the assumption I have a room here, by the way.
You do. Both.
But if I do, then I'm probably having to earn it by working as a bouncer because he has 0 cash.
Okay. Both the new characters for Fishy and Knight are both residents of the inn. So you've been living at the Tossed Coin for a little while now. Okay. So, the man in black looks up and says, you've arrived. We had word that you were due in today. We were delaying until your arrival. Sad business. Sad. He doesn't look particularly old, but he talks like he's written the book. He's almost got that whole I've written the book, you know. He sounds a lot older than his face looks. Okay. Indeed. Yes, it's the circle of life.
It's circle of being a bartender. That's what it sounds like.
Can't believe I've just done that. Never mind. So, please take a seat. Take a seat, please. And the man you're with, Abelard. Nicholas, what's going on? Why? No, going with what's going on. Take a seat, please, sir. Why do I need to sit down? Why?
I'm quite interested in that as well, but I'm more interested in getting a drink first. So you sit down. I'll be at the bar.
Yes, I understand. It's a trying time. I gather that drinks are to be free today, so that is understandable. It's
did Blake know that already?
No.
Okay, Blake now finishes his drink and just slams the mug down in front of the bartender.
The barmaid is a relatively petite girl with very arched eyebrows, and with her hair pulled back in a ponytail, you can see pointy ears. Blake will know, and anybody else in the bar who lives here or is resident, or is resident of the bar, or has been attending, will know that her name is Bernie, as given. She has occasionally told people her name, but she does so extremely quickly and in deliberately strongly accented elder speech.
So we have Bernie the barmaid.
Heamus
Yes.
cannot resist showing off, unfortunately. So as he starts moving towards the bar, he is going to call out in Elven. It's still early in the day, so 2 light beers, if you will.
Okay. The eyebrows do shoot up rather.
Practically meet the hairline by the sound of it.
And she reaches down and pulls out 2 passably clean, quite nicely done glasses. Actually, let's be honest here, it's not glasses, it's going to be tankards.
These would be leather tankards, probably, in a place like this, surely.
It's actually ceramic.
Oh, ceramic tankards, I say.
Actually ceramic tankards.
We have stumbled into a posh
Leather tankards?
establishment.
Yeah.
Small tankard.
Yeah. Is that leather or is that ceramic?
No, this is leather.
That one's
Oh, that's a leather one, yeah.
Ah.
I know this because I made it myself.
Ah.
You see, Blake is going to be on the leather
That makes sense.
because she's not stupid.
It's like, is that equivalent of like getting silicone glasses when you're at the bar?
Yeah, you know the ones where they say no glasses outside when you're
Yeah.
in the external eating area. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No glasses to the drunken mercenary.
yes,
Yeah. You remove the fancy wine glasses and give them the boring ones.
yes, yeah. He's basically got the picnic cup.
Yeah.
Unbreakable plastic.
Sippy cup.
If she could give him a sippy cup, she'd probably have done it. He'd probably have taken it.
Yep, probably.
If it had alcohol in it, I'm
Andy.
sure he would have taken anything.
Yep.
That's all that matters.
Okay.
Body shots?
So, yes, she pours out 2 nutty brown light ales and hands you the mugs and offers
right.
you a smile. Remind me, because that's just the way life works, does Heamus have anything in charisma?
Heamus didn't, but does now because he... Actually, no, he did, but he's now got more. It's now up to 5 charisma. He did have 3, but I put a couple of points in after his bartending work in the last scenario.
She offers him a professional but friendly smile. You get the distinct impression it would be purely professional had he not actually addressed her in elder speech, because he speaks that dialect. He actually addresses her in Elven.
His
he
Elven
didn't
is quite
insult her.
accented because
Yep.
he doesn't really speak Elven, but we established he does speak Elven.
Yeah, it's all basically the same tongue. Nilgaardian, Skelligan, and Elven are all essentially elder speech. So it's like the different Romance languages. To be honest, if you speak Spanish, you can probably figure out Italian, and you can take a run up at French.
Also Portuguese.
Or to get also Portuguese, yeah.
Which would also give you potentially South African.
It gives you Brazilian. You can sort yourself out there, yeah. So yes, they are the same, essentially the same family. So it's different dialects of the same, roughly the same words. So is how I've rationalised it, and fight me, my game.
It's Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish.
Yeah.
Now I've heard that, yeah. As opposed to Finnish, which we have established
Finnish
is
has
its
nothing
own
to do
thing.
with-
Yeah. And apparently it's also Icelandic, but I don't understand.
Icelandic it hasn't changed that
Yeah.
much since like.
But they can
anyway,
definitely understand
linguistics.
us. Anyway, yeah.
Okay, so yes,
Jane.
you are now equipped with a couple of drinks, and the young man you came in with has plonked himself down on the long table sitting directly opposite the man in black. And he looks worried.
I do have one important question to ask about the man in black.
Okay. No, he doesn't have a
Is he
guitar.
left-handed?
No.
Even if he is, he probably isn't.
He does not have a guitar, he does not have a cowboy hat, and he is not left-handed, nor does he have 6 fingers on his right hand. Can we please just clarify that? He's just a normal, trustworthy lawyer.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Just use an oxymoron.
Okay. Please, yes, Abelard. If your friends would like to have a seat as well, so I'm just addressing everybody in one go.
I'll go and find a table that isn't occupied if there is one, and park there, and
there's one left.
And wait for Heamus to come back with the beers.
I will deliver Dagraed's beer, and then I'm going to go and sit next to Abelard.
Okay. Heamus, never knowingly letting an opportunity slip by.
Not yet, no. I just have a suspicious feeling that I jokingly nailed it earlier in the session.
You may puzzle. I would have worried that you had access to my notes, except that I know you don't.
Or do you?
No, he really doesn't, because they're in my head. I'm rotten for notes for advanced writing. I will literally run an entire session on 2 lines.
Fair enough.
Writing it up as I go. I mean, this being an opening, you got lucky. I had 3 paragraphs. That's it. Short ones. So
yes.
Yes, if I can have all your attentions, please. Thank you. Sir, are you drinking over here, sir? That's to Blake.
Now you see, this is awkward because now I've got to do a different accent to Heamus.
Yes, and Blake is Kedweni, isn't he?
He's a Kedweni, that's right, isn't it?
Yes, Border.
I can hear you fine.
Oh, right then. I understand. Right. So, we are obviously gathered here today for the unfortunate occurrence of the untimely demise of our friend Willhelm. At this, Abelard's face just goes absolutely paper.
And Heamus starts to grin.
What? What? Uncle Wilhelm's dead? No.
So I take it you'll be here for the reading of the will.
That is the occurrence which has brought us all here today to this place. We have a list of names, and those names are named on the will in the list. Yes?
You've got a little list, Dagraed. I bet none of them will be missed either.
Quite.
Sorry.
Now I've got to try and remember all your character names. I am doomed.
That's why we have notes.
Yes. Fortunately, you know them. Okay, so fortunately they're on the character sheet up at the top. I'm rotten on names. I am appalling on names. I do apologise in advance. I resort to "oi you" altogether way too often. So, as we all now know, terribly sorry there, young Abelard. Thought somebody had told you. Thought news might have reached you already.
Hand on Abelard's shoulder.
He pats your hand with his without thinking about
He's
it.
really not thinking about it, is he?
He's not a happy bunny. It's only a few days' voyage that you've been on. No, word didn't reach me before I embarked at Sintra. Oh, he wasn't that old. Well, no, he wasn't that old, but yes. we'll discuss that later. Let's deal with the list first. Yes. Yes. Organised. Lists are important. So, I have here the last will and testament of Willhelm Skane, proprietor, owner, and innovator, really, here at the Tossed Coin. So, let's get the big one out of the way, which is that as his sole surviving blood relative, young Abelard here inherits the inn itself.
That's what he thinks.
Yep.
It does include, of course, the brewery, the gaming interests, and the stable of aardvarks.
The what now?
Did you just say gaming interests?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
There's a legal, fully licensed gaming den on the premises. Quite profitable, I gather.
What are we talking here? Dice, cards?
Aardvarks.
Okay, now you said that before, and I didn't really understand it the first time, so I'm not really any wiser now.
Well, it's aardvarks. They fight, and
Fighting aardvarks.
Go
Well,
fighting
yeah.
I don't even know what an aardvark is. Are they particularly vicious?
Well, they do have the large claws, which normally they would use to dig into anthills. But
So it's not just a local term for chickens, then?
Oh no. They're about 4 feet long.
No, that'd be a bit big for a chicken.
And while their mouths obviously are mostly tongue, and they're hardly going to lick each other into submission. No, they.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the last place I was employed, you could probably find that sort of thing.
Monty just looks shell-shocked. Everybody else looks dead.
No, it's not.
No, I gather that there are different types of games. Normally, of course, the aardvarks will have their primary finger claws covered with leather sheaths, and it's more of a battering contest. But
Oh.
yeah,
I think we've got the basics now,
Yes.
so you carry on with your list.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
no, that's. Who are you?
I'm Heamus of Noggle. This over here in the corner there, that's my friend Dagraed.
Ah.
We're new in town, and by an amazing and interesting turn of fate, it seems we now own an inn and a brewery.
I do believe the
Avalon.
law of
The law of surprise.
surprise
Was
was
invoked.
yes.
Abelard turns to you in abject horror. I thought it might be
Don't-
hidden.
Don't worry, young Abelard. We know nothing about running inns and breweries, so your position is absolutely safe. We're going to need your help.
If I may continue, we can discuss this afterwards. He manfully looks back at his papers, and with a "and moving on."
Meanwhile,
tone of
back at the
voice.
plot.
Meanwhile, back at the plot.
Let's talk about aardvarks, more talk about payment.
Yes. So yes, everything in this inn is owned out, or was owned outright by your uncle. He looks at you, looks slightly confused, and then looks back at Abelard on the ground. Like, that's safer. As is one portion of the primary asset, which is the recipe for your uncle's beer. Your uncle was very fond of his regulars. He knows that several of you have been coming for several years, and welcomes your custom, and appreciates it, and knows that for the sake of the safety of his product, that it might continue to be as good and as exclusive to this establishment as possible. He has divided up the recipe for his stout, Willhelm's Cream, into several portions. And at this, the barmaid comes round, Bernie comes round, and takes a sheaf of papers and actually starts distributing one each to Juniper, Dondrick, Nell, and Loic.
Loic looks a tad surprised.
Yeah, so does Dondrick. There's just
the request is that only young Abelard should be in possession of the full recipe, and only for the purposes of actually manufacturing the draft. That was mentioned. However, for the purposes of nobody else learning how to make the full recipe, it's been asked that you, and I quote, guard the bloody thing with your lives. I don't want the bastards taking it off me. I hope that's clear.
From behind the bar, where he has moved to the instant that Bernie came out.
Right.
Blake will now speak up. Next to me, no, that's Heamus's voice. That's not going to work.
You made a mistake,
it's very
sir.
awkward, you know. Very awkward indeed.
Hey, you're the one who
Hang on a
picked
moment.
Welsh and Irish.
Yes, I know. It was foolish. It was very foolish.
Yes, mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made. Let me see if I can just get this. If I'm just going to not do it for the moment. I can't.
No, you can't flick back and forth.
Hamish is too strong.
Seems to me that you people are going to need security.
Well, you look pretty.
Just mentioning it.
Aye, and security better bloody be sober too, says the voice from over there in the big burly chap.
Dondrick just looks at Loic like.
I think we're all just like the volume of a sphere and a cylinder mean. It's all three of us right now. Just
essentially.
I am as surprised as you are, my friend.
Essentially, what you're all looking at, and the craftsmen have got it slightly easier than most people, is a couple of ingredients and a quite extensive and detailed description of an apparently near alchemical process, considerably more complex than several potions you've been invested in, as to how to process these ingredients before moving to the next step. Each of you appears to have one step in the process. And Abelard is presented with the final page.
So all of us have like the ingredients, but we have different steps of the process.
Yeah, you have you have the ingredients that are used in your step.
Oh, okay. I see.
So if I understand this correctly, it's Dondrick, Nell, myself, and Juniper have the recipe split into 4, and Abelard has the full recipe.
He has the full method.
He has the full method, but not the ingredients. So.
Yes.
So he needs us as well.
Wow. Okay. So it's a 5-part recipe. Okay.
Can I roll like an alchemy check to see if
You
figure out what's going on?
You can have an alchemy check. Yeah.
That's
as close as anything.
Like after my confused looks, I'm going to look down and actually see if I can decipher what's going on here.
Okay.
Just a D10, and I'm assuming plus my rank.
D10 plus alchemy plus whatever stat alchemy's under, which is craft.
Yes, plus my rank plus my craft.
Yep.
Wow.
Loic turns to Blake at this point.
That's.
Has he actually? Did Blake introduce himself? Like, did he give a name?
18. 19 for now.
Okay. I'll let Fishy decide.
If Blake is resident here, then it is likely that he's basically been working security in return for.
Sorry, not Blake. That's not who I meant.
Heamus?
I meant Niklaus.
Ah.
I apologise.
Niklaus, before this scene started, Niklaus would have sent a messenger to each of you specifically asking you to come for the will reading.
Okay. Would his name have been on that? So would I know to address him as Niklaus?
Yes.
Okay.
Nicholas Beringer.
Okay. Mr. Beringer, forgive me if this seems a little strange. Were there any other arrangements in there with regards to the logistics? This seems more than a mite strange.
Well, I gather that there have been interested parties who were quite aggressively pursuing the recipe for this beer.
Yes, I think I can attest to that.
There were.
And I gather that in the interest of remaining independent, Master Skane decided this was the safest thing to do, since his product is, well, as I said, exclusive, and it is known throughout the city.
Indeed.
Seems reasonable to me. What he's arranged here. Well, what he's arranged here is that in order to get this recipe, is it you're talking about, these chaps that my friend and I encountered this morning with young Abelard are going to have to torture or blackmail every single one of you, and that makes their job a lot harder.
Sorry, care to repeat that?
I think it was fairly clear on what was said.
That we actually need to protect this with our life?
Abelard, would you like to elucidate here?
I was jumped as I got off the boat. It was the piglets, and they wanted. Okay, those of you resident in not just in Bremervoord, but in this neighbourhood, know that the local crime boss, and we're not talking, mafiosi here.
Yeah.
He's not quite that good, but he does control all the crime in the neighbourhood. Is a man by the name of Sebastian Bohr.
Okay.
And his gang is called the Piglets. Because that's exactly the reaction that he wants. Because if you go to the watch and say, I was accosted by a piglet.
They were trying to steal my honey for their friend.
For some reason, I actually thought that he was carrying a bag of piglets because young aardvarks are called piglets.
Yes, they are. This is not a coincidence.
In Swedish, aardvark actually translates to earth pig. So
yeah.
I mean, it's the Dutch for it. Originally.
Yeah. You see, I do my research. You see, this is not a coincidence.
And I didn't just Google that to figure out what an aardvark was, but
because aardvark gambling, aardvark fighting, is one of the biggest enterprises for underground funding in the city. So having a legal licensed venue is obviously of great interest to the organised crime in the area. See, this does all hang together.
For Wilhelm's
I had no doubt that it would.
Yeah, it's just that also I torture you with puns and bad words.
Heamus is now eyeing Blake, trying to work out whether he's going to be primarily useful for beating up piglets or primarily useful for drunkenly distracting them long enough for Heamus to stick a stiletto in their spleen.
Wait, Fishy, are you saying that you as your character is trying to figure out what your other character is?
Yes,
like,
my character is trying to figure out how best you can abuse my other character.
Are you going to roll a contested insight against yourself? Is that what you're getting at?
I could do.
Yeah. Wouldn't be the first time.
Whilst this is going on, Loic very carefully folds up his piece of paper and puts it inside his jerkin.
Okay.
Yeah, I do the same. I also fold mine up, but I put it like in a good pocket, probably covered by tools.
Yeah. So. You didn't.
Okay, Blake's poker face is apparently really shit.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
God.
To spell it out for those who can't see it, Heamus rolled a 14.
That was a fumble on Blake's. I rolled deceit for his poker face against Hemus's 14 human perception, and he rolled a fumble, so it came out as 4.
Basically, also bear in mind, I seem to recall you get a bonus for human perception. You get Blake's number.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I think, being from Skellige, you see, Heamus is quite familiar with people who, yes, are drunk as a lord, but are also good in a fight.
Sometimes better.
That's actually reasonable, yeah. Especially the berserkers, who, let's face it, it's practically a requirement for Skellige berserkers to get a skinful before turning into bears.
What do you mean to get a skinful before? Are they just permanently under a skinful?
Like an IV is attached to the neck.
Berserkers.
Yes, and they actually do shapeshift. They can shapeshift.
The word berserk does come from the
bear shirts.
from bear skin.
Yeah, not all of them do, but some of them can. But yes, there are a lot of very burly young gentlemen on Skellige with a surfeit of body hair and bad attitudes when drunk.
On the subject of being good in a fight despite being drunk, by the way, Blake adds 14 to the dice when using his primary weapon, which is not the sword he's carrying at the moment.
No.
It's the bloody great two-handed maul that he's left in his room.
Well, largely on the grounds that no other bugger can lift it.
Something like that.
Okay.
Blake versus the power of inertia.
Yeah. So yeah, Blake is, although he is a drunkard, Blake is a bit tasty in the fight. Okay. So you've got the slightly baffled Abelard, who is basically explaining that he was accosted by some piglets, and they thought I had the cream recipe.
Is Hadavir enough of a local to understand that?
Yes, Hadavir is going to have been around probably a few weeks at least, and at least once he's going to have had someone try and shake him down.
They would have had a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, it didn't go well. No one's dead yet.
I don't want to lower the tone of the proceedings, but can I just ask how Master Willhelm actually died?
I was wondering the same thing.
Nicholas looks uncomfortable at this. Well, he was discovered by Bernie here. Her eyebrow raises at the young. He was discovered in the cellar, and apparently had fallen down the stairs into the cellar. He was. I gather that, and I'm trying to spare you here, my boy. I do apologise. And Abelard just waves with a whatever. My day could literally not get any worse. There were considerable injuries, and
Are you suggesting that he fell down the stairs with some speed and his neck was snapped at the bottom?
Well, no, his neck was not, unfortunately, snapped. He actually died of let me just. I did have this written down because just in case anybody asked, to be honest. He died of 4 cracked ribs and a broken leg and a fractured skull and a broken nose. And I don't know what a spleen is, but I'm reasonably sure they're not supposed to be ruptured.
I think it's safe to assume that anything ruptured is bad.
And damaged kidneys. And a ruptured stomach.
All sounds quite unlikely for
That's a rather a lot of injury for a simple fall down some stairs.
And no one had
Those stairs really had it in for him.
No one noticed this? Was he the only person in the inn at the time?
He was, unfortunately, yes. It seems that everybody else was either out.
How long ago did this happen, please?
This actually happened about a week ago.
A week ago, I see.
Oh, sorry. Yes, so you're asking as Dagraed, not as
yes.
Hadave, who would know. Yes, this occurred a week ago. We did send out messengers with the next clipper, hoping to encounter young Abelard's ship.
Clearly, your messengers did not arrive.
Obviously, we were aware that Master Willhelm had passed away, but not the extent of his injury to this extent.
No. I gather he didn't particularly want. I'm not going to say he saw it coming because that would be beyond my purview under the law. But
he took great pains in his will.
Loic raises an eyebrow at that.
But he did have some extensive off-the-books conversations with me.
Oh, you are quite fluffy with your words, sir. Please, speak plainly and simply. Some of those here may not understand the fluff.
You can almost see him pairing off extraneous syllables and peeling them away from his sentence before it comes out. Willhelm thought somebody might try and kill him, and I didn't say that.
Of course. I am very familiar with a lot of things people never said.
And he was quite vindicated since someone clearly did kill him.
Yes, officially, according to the Watch's investigation, he died of natural causes, the natural causes being the result of a fall down some concrete stairs.
As opposed to the natural causes of having a secret somebody wanted.
Yes.
I could
natural
possibly.
Causes. Somebody beat him bloody. Naturally, he died.
Yes, that would seem. If I were obviously off the books, if I were to be asked that, he looks at Dagraed. Yes, sir.
Quite.
That's my belief, sir. So, obviously, he has left you, young Abelard, his entire going concern. and all rights and responsibilities are pending there too, as it says in the documentation. So if you care to sign, here we can transfer the property into your name.
I'm
Now,
guessing there is
about
nothing
this
else
law
on
of
that
surprise
book.
that was invoked.
Abelard still looks slightly shell-shocked. Yes. Law of surprise.
For those of us who don't know, what is the law of surprise?
Okay.
I am not very familiar with the
Which
I'll tell you what, I am so glad I actually read the books.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I watched the show.
Essentially,
Yeah, same.
essentially, the law of I had already decided this was how I was doing it before they were whiffling about the law of surprise in the series, and I was going, oh, okay, we'll stick with that. It's how new witches are made.
Yeah, it's a really big deal in
Yeah.
the Witcher part of the setting.
Essentially, it is the first thing which it's essentially giving as a payment or a prize that which you own, which you do not know you own.
Yeah.
The first thing you find which you don't expect.
Yeah, exactly. It's the classic. You come home and you're not. Yeah. So it's the classic. A guy comes home from war, having given the law of surprise to someone who saved his life or something, and he comes home and finds his wife's given birth in the meantime.
Yeah. So it would be a surprise for him.
Yeah.
That's one of the ways that the witches got kids.
Yeah.
To train.
But it can also be an inn or a horse or
exactly.
like
a new wagon.
A newborn kitten, a puppy.
Yeah.
So it could be almost anything.
It could be that your prize cow has just given birth, and suddenly the person who you owed owns a cow.
Yeah.
It's usually not. It doesn't have to be super serious, but for plot reasons, it usually is.
But the law of surprise it's an established part of the folklore in the setting, and it is an important thing. And as Fish says, I mean, Ciri is in the books and in the series. She's Geralt's child of surprise. Which is why, theoretically, this is why he ends up raising her. This is how new witches are made quite often. One gets a baby as a result of one of these situations, and that's pretty much a solid destiny that kid's going to grow up to be a witcher.
They call children of destiny.
Yeah.
And it could, I'm presuming though that sometimes it could take a very long time to collect or never actually trigger.
Yeah, that's essentially what Geralt does. He spends 10 years of trying to avoid it.
Yes. Yeah. Mainly because he's deeply embarrassed about the whole situation. It's kind of no, we didn't need to, but oops.
Didn't actually think anything would come of it.
Yeah, it's a definite oh shit situation.
Geralt is the sort of person who will invoke law of surprise and never expecting to cash in on it as a way of letting you off your debt.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it kind of goes wrong on occasion.
Yeah. So yes, I thought you might appreciate this. So, yes. Sorry, where's Abelard's voice? Law of surprise. He steadies himself. I can live here, right?
Yes.
We are not unreasonable men, Master Abelard. As I've already said, we know nothing about this business, so we're going to need somebody to run it for us, essentially. And you would seem to be in an ideal position to do that. Plus, as I understand the law of surprise, the inn and the brewery are a single business, correct?
They are,
so therefore, they are a single item. But the recipe is a separate item. So we don't own that.
He brightens immediately. Yes.
So you're going to need somewhere, you're going to need an established outlet for this recipe, because this is where people expect to find it. and that makes sense for you to keep selling it here. But we don't own that, so that'll be a business partnership between ourselves and yourself, and of course your 4 partners.
Loic steps up at this point. Well, business skill is something I am most adequately placed to dispense. And he actually holds out his hand to Abelard, and if Heamus and Dagraed will shake his hand as well, and introduces himself as I am Loic of Creden, proprietor and co-owner with this gentleman and this lady of Ways and Means, a military outfitters here in town.
Dondrick rises at when he presents himself as well, and goes, "Yes, I'm Dondrick Mallard of Ways and Means."
Yeah, Noah kind of just stands up and nods and just yeah. No.
Heamus will happily shake any hands that are offered to him, because Heamus is a duplicitous bastard, and a handshake means nothing to him.
And Loic is a merchant and knows exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yes.
And likewise, Dagraed will shake any hand offered to him, because a handshake is an opportunity for a quick pilfering of pockets.
Well, that's true. Yes.
And
I
will
will
Has
shake.
his eyes on the bigger prize at the moment.
I mean, if you're shaking Loic's hand, you will notice that there are 3 rings on the hand. That
2 rings, was that?
Right, do you remember the trick I did with the captain of the guard last time round?
They are metal bands as opposed to jeweled rings, so they do fit quite closely. If you did want to try, you are welcome to.
A challenge.
Given there is a solicitor around, I think that would be just pushing this a little too far.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, Dagraed Borshak is Dagraed van Rocaine. I look forward to doing business with you. And you. And you. And you.
Quick question.
And you.
And you.
Quick question, Drod. How noticeable is Dagraed's Nilgaardian accent?
Dagraed's Nilgaardian accent is noticeable.
Okay, I will not shake his hand. I will give you just my expression goes from they usually confused of in this entire situation to just completely blank when I look at you, and I just give you a short nod, but I will not shake your hand.
I'm assuming that we're all talking common speech throughout this.
Yeah, makes sense.
I certainly hope so, because Blake doesn't speak Elder speech. So his parts in this conversation are a bit weird if we were talking Elder.
No, Kedweni is common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll speak common.
So yes, that just leaves the fourth party in the corner.
This is ridiculous. So now we're just expected to sit around here and pretend to all get along together just to make this beer.
I'm assuming not. We have work to do elsewhere.
Likewise,
if you wish to sell your portion of the recipe, I will happily guard it for you.
Can be made.
Well, no, I never said anything about selling it.
I just need to get eyes on it a couple of times so I can memorize the ingredients.
Ah, so you can take my intellectual property.
I think what you really mean to say, Abelard, is that you need to strike up a business partnership with each of these for them to undertake to produce their portion of the produce.
Yes, I suppose.
However that may be. In some cases, it may be for them
understand what. I turning to the lawyer. I believe you'll be able to confirm or refute this, but I believe what you said was that he basically was of the intention that this recipe never be written down in one place.
Yes,
So
that seems to be
split among the 5 of you, so that it can't be stolen, not so that you can't make it. Not so that Abelard can't make it. It's not to stop Abelard making it. He can. If you're not fine with it, you tell him what he needs to do. He makes it, and you just sit back and take the money.
Yes. I would imagine a commission for use of your parts of the recipe. Abelard still has that whole smacked in the face look to him.
Well, this is going to be a little bit awkward to figure out because it involves bringing the parts of the recipe together to do so, and that might be a little dangerous according to what we've already heard. But I suppose what you really need to do is to figure out exactly how much of the recipe is contained within each portion, and then that would determine the portion of the proceeds that person is entitled to. That is proceeds after all of the necessary expenses involved in making it, which can be quite extreme, I gather.
Drut, with our check previously, do we as craftsmen think we can actually make our part of the I rolled an 18, I think Monty had a 19.
Yeah, 19.
You think that you could certainly supply the ingredients. It doesn't require truly specialist knowledge to prepare each component. It seems to be the combination which is an issue.
Which is not what we have, it's what Abelard has. So.
Yeah. So, do I as a craftsman think that a common layman who doesn't know things about alchemy and things could make their part of the recipe?
Yeah, they could. But they couldn't then produce the beer. Possibly even if they were presented with all of the prepared components.
Cool.
Which would seem to have been the issue with the whole crime boss problem.
Yeah. We don't need to bring our everything together we can make our parts separately and then deliver them here, and the beer can be made here.
You could indeed buy them in yourselves. You wouldn't necessarily need to actually make them yourself. You could literally order the components from a normal supplier.
Not as fun as
but as a craftsman,
my craft
as people
now includes beer making.
Yeah, you could indeed. There is, for example, yours involves 3 different types of grain, Felix, and a process which apparently renders them into one massed cake.
I know. I actually know beer making. So that makes sense.
Juniper, your portion involves adding to a previously mentioned cake a specific combination of mold.
Sounds like something I'd be quite knowledgeable about.
Yeah.
Mold.
Yeah. Mold, which is then fermented and mixed with the final product. Monty, yours involves specific charring of woods to be added into the process. And my brain fry. Loic, it is a disposable and consumed in the process type of fuel, which is apparently used for heating the mixture over a period of time. But it's a specific combination of coke and woods.
I say that in game anyway. The entire thing I said with that it doesn't need to be brought together.
Okay.
That we can make it separately. Yeah.
So yes, you are now all responsible for a component which can be combined, therefore, by Abelard, and only Abelard, into a very profitable and financially valuable
craft brewery
product.
It would seem, I turn to, it would seem we would need to undertake a certain amount of negotiations then here in order to determine what a reasonable supply and logistics chain looks like.
come play with The Witcher. It's dark fantasy. What are we doing? Business negotiations.
Dark monster hunting,
Yeah.
and definitely not establishing new businesses and
It's
LinkedIn
like
networking.
Isn't this
it's
the
like
truth
playing
of
Vampire the
all along?
Masquerade.
I turn to Bernard. Yeah. How much? What are the current supplies like? When would a new batch of stout be required?
We currently have 4 barrels, but they are the 4 large storage barrels. They decant down into 5 barrels each of the underbar. So we do currently have 100 barrels worth. But that's not going to last past a month. We sell it from here, and we also, I've got access to the books here. So do I, says Nicholas. Yes, but I actually run them. We sell to various restaurants in the city, as well as to some private homes.
Understandable. If it is, well, once we have decided how this operation is to go down, then obviously I would like to be able to look at the books as well myself. However, and at which point he looks at Heamus and Dagraed, as the owners, apparently, now of this business, that is presumably something we will need to negotiate separately.
Quite.
Well, I don't see any reason why you need to be looking at our books, to be honest. No offense, but it seems to me that your relationship to us is a simple matter of supply and demand. We have a demand for your supply. So we need to negotiate with you once we have established it after conversation with this fine lady here as to how much we need to buy and at what interval we need to be buying it, and then we can let you know. And then we can take it from there as to whether or not you're in a position to supply what we need.
Obviously, if it is as simple if it is as simple as that as you wish it to be, so be it. I am simply.
Well, your relationship otherwise is with young Abelard here, and while I'm very fond of the lad, Abelard's probably older than Heamus, but never mind.
Yeah,
Abelard is, yeah.
It's not really any of my business. At this point, he's going to lapse into Elvish again.
Okay.
And the fact that I'm quite sure you've already figured out that the 3 of you already being in a partnership means you have a controlling interest in this bear does put young Abelard at something of a disadvantage, and then back into common speech.
I respond.
I'm sure we can work everything out fine.
I do speak Elder speech. Do I have to have specified whether that's Nilgaardian or Elvish?
The way the rules say it works is that whichever language it is you speak, you treat everything else as if it was 2 points lower.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
Bernie understood what you just said.
Essentially, with his current Elder speech level, Heamus speaks Elvish at 7.
Ladies and
because
gentlemen,
I've upped his base 8 to 9 for.
In which case, I will say that I speak Nilgaardian at 13, and Elvish at 11.
Okay.
That's impressive.
That is king.
In which case, I am capable of responding in a basic Elven. Your analysis is correct, and then switch back into common. And that was perfectly friendly because Loic is not a deceitful man or anything like that. His ability is in like persuasion and charisma. Like I have high empathy and such. It's not in the ability to. Yeah. I was simply offering you. You had said previously that you have no. That you would need somebody to help run this. That you have no business skill. That is what I had intimated. I am merely offering my services as a proprietor of a business already in this town.
Ladies and gentlemen,
obviously,
whilst
I
this
can't make any
discussion...
decisions without consulting with my business partner.
Obviously.
But after we've looked over what's necessary, if we do feel the need for outside assistance, we will obviously keep you in mind, if only because, thanks to the supply of this beer, we already have essentially a de facto business relationship that we can fall back on and simply improvise around it to work out whatever we need. So your assistance may well be required and greatly appreciated, monetarily, of course.
Knight, what were you saying?
Ladies and gentlemen, whilst discussion around the future of this is very, very key to young Avalard here. Avalard's probably quite a bit older than Dagraed.
Yep. Avalard,
I feel this is not the best time for this discussion.
Avalard's about 25, for reference.
So yeah, he is older than Dagraed.
Yeah, certainly.
He has just become aware of the situation, and already this discussion is going on around him about his future. I think it is best for everyone if we back this off just a little bit, that the situation sink in for Dagraed. Now, speaking for myself, I've had a very long journey. I am not at my best in terms of temper. I don't wish to get angry with anyone, so I'm going to retire to my room. Have fun with the discussion. Any discussions that myself and my business partner need to have, we will have as a business partnership. I will speak to you, ladies and gentlemen, later. Good night. I will find a room myself.
Bernie heads over to you and says, technically, you are a co-owner, but if you don't mind, for this evening, I can put you in one of the guest rooms.
Please show me the way.
Yes, she will lead you up the stairs and into a room with 2 single beds.
I think that is a very. I think. Oh, that accent's gone. It's the other competing accents that are actually now influencing mine. I think that is a very reasonable response. We will need to take some time to, and I'm looking at Nell and Dondrek as well, to to obviously mull this over as well, for it is a situation that we have been thrust into. I am, however, a little concerned, given Master Abelard's encounter on the way here, that we all might be in need of greater security. I turn to Niklaus. How many other... Does anybody outside of this group know that you were intending to dispense Master Willhelm's will today?
Well, the reading was going to happen.
How widely was that known?
Well, under the laws of the city, it did need to be posted on the notice board, because anyone with an interest in the property, illegitimate children or second cousins twice removed who we didn't know about, that sort of thing, could theoretically have arrived and made some kind of claim. So it had simply been up in the marketplace.
Of course it had. Why had I forgotten that?
But the details, obviously, were confidential to myself and my 3 clerks.
I am guessing that there are no other copies of what we have been given.
No, absolutely not, no. These are written in Master Willhelm's own hand, and I gather the master recipe from which he always worked was burned.
Do we know that? Do we know that for certain?
That's what he told me when he gave me the pieces.
Okay. Is there any way, like, I go to a window where is there any way that I can I'm guessing that the front windows look out over the marketplace.
They look out onto a road that leads to the marketplace, not directly onto the marketplace itself.
I want to see if I can discern whether or not the front doors are being watched.
Right.
Paranoia is already high.
Check
Yeah.
the walls opposite the window for little red dots.
I'm a businessman. Look, I have a high business skill and I have a high tactic skill, at least for a first level character. So,
Okay.
background training coming in here.
Yeah.
Awareness check, I'm guessing.
Yes. Yes, it's an awareness check.
Oh dear. That is a fumble for a 5.
Oh wow.
At least it didn't go into negative figures.
No, I
Okay.
have an intelligence of 10, thankfully. But
Oh. Okay. Loic cannot see anybody watching the front of the building
okay.
from his position.
I turn to the others. It does not appear that this premise is being watched, at least from at the front. However, that is no guarantee that there aren't folks hidden. If you were assaulted by the piglets, then it is possible that they are watching some of the entrances for whoever might be a party to the reading that is going on, because they will obviously know that the reading is happening today. So anybody in this place would be, at this point, would know something. I would suggest that we all take necessary precautions for our own safety. And I look at Nicholas. That includes yourself, sir.
Oh, I'm perfectly safe. I'm really, who in their right mind would assault a lawyer?
I think we have already determined that. Master Boar.
Well, yes.
Do you not get out very much?
Well, no.
And
the cold gets into the bones, and I
look at him.
Assaulting a lawyer is a common pastime. You don't even need a reason for it. It's just something to do.
It just seems rude.
We should get back to
That's
the
the
shop.
reason I left.
I nod. We will take our leave now. Obviously, the three of us as a group are capable of taking care of ourselves. However, I simply believe that there is a lot to think about for all of us, and should security be of an issue, then please feel free. Again, my services are here, and I produce business cards to give to everyone.
Excellent.
They say on them, in like neat writing, it says. Actually, will we have added? No, that will be on the sign outside. So it's ways and means.
Yeah,
Ways and
depends.
means.
Is Nell actually a or is she just an employee? I don't think we established that actually. Josie?
No, Nell isn't
Monti?
a co-owner. I think she's just a partner.
Employee.
She's an
I don't think
yeah.
her name is on the sign though.
Okay, cool.
But she's a very valued employee.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
So-
doesn't see any reason.
She's
for her to
employee of the month every month.
So it says ways and means, Loic and Mallard, and then under it, what do you go for? It's military provisioners and adventuring outfitters par excellence.
Par excellence.
I want to sketch up that sign at some point.
Yeah.
And he hands these cards. He hands these cards to each of you, and it's also got on the back the address of our shop.
Yeah, because see, when we're busy making armor, that is what Louis does. He just sits and writes cards by hand.
Calligraphy.
Yeah.
Classes are a thing.
Yeah, I have a writing kit. I have.
Yeah.
See, I wasn't wrong. It was a
I
joke, but
don't
it
want
wasn't
to insult you,
canon.
good people. I'm sure that my request is going to be far beyond beneath your attention. So I will ask instead whether you might know of a suitable establishment where I can get a small sign made. We're just going to need under new management to go out front there, and it seems like it's beneath you looking at the fine cards here and military provisioning, no less. That's impressive. But if you'd know someone you can recommend, that would be useful.
I can recommend you a sign maker. That is not a problem.
Thank you very much.
Abelard flinches slightly when you say under new management.
Poor guy.
Clearly, the guy really is not a happy camper at all.
At which point, I turn to Abelard. Master Abelard, my condolences. And we take our I look at Nell and Dontrick. It is probably about time that we take our leave.
Yeah.
Thank you, Diane. Yes, and it's been a lot.
It's a shame if you're leaving straight away, because if the business portion and the legal portion of this meeting are dealt with, surely this now is a week. So let's have some drinks, and Abelard, you can tell us about your uncle. I'm sure you have a lot of stories.
Okay, so the Skelliger wants to have a wake on the free bar.
Yep. It's not
Raise
a free
your
bar
hand if
anymore.
that's
He
a
now
problem.
owns it. It's his bar.
Well, yeah.
I'm
Admittedly,
paying
yes.
for this wake.
Good point. I think that yes, if you guys are sticking around for the wake,
Are we?
I look at speaking for myself at least. I have paid a tankard to Master Willhelm, and I think at this point it is probably wiser for me to take my leave. Let you get acquainted with your new premises. And obviously,
Very well then, Master Lord. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
And
yeah,
you-
And indeed the rest of you fine
Master
folks.
Heamus.
If the man's saying there's a wake, you might as well stay and drink. Be rude to do otherwise.
Can I roll a social etiquette if it's rude? I need to know.
Yes, you can.
Cool. I have.
Okay, Lo, at that, Lo will stay for one.
Okay.
Give me a second. I'm just gonna get my calculator up because I don't trust my math. That's 17. I added 3 numbers together and I need a calculator.
Yep.
Yeah, what would the check be actually? Because
No, social etiquette is a skill.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
It's
then
on
it is,
intelligence if you don't have any
yeah.
points in it.
Social
just,
etiquette plus intelligence plus
Whatever you
your
roll.
dice.
Oh, I sure don't have it. Let's see, what is my intelligence? My intelligence is good though.
How is Juniper
But that's
reacting to
a
this?
1.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, it's an 18 from Loic. So
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
so then I roll another d10, right?
You
and
roll
just,
another d10 and subtract from 1.
God, I've missed
Two.
system with exploding dice. It's
so,
fun.
so that's 7.
Okay. Is that -7?
No, total of 7 because
Oh,
I just
total
rolled a
of 7.
2 on the second one. I
Okay,
haven't
so
died
it's not actually a fumble. You're okay. It's just that you don't know. You're kind of feeling a bit awkward now. You don't know whether it's right. Should you stay? Should you leave?
Should you go? Should you stay? Should you go now?
Yeah, it's just,
If you stay, there will be trouble.
how is?
But if
how
you
is
leave, there will be
Juniper?
double.
How is Juniper taking to the idea of her new business partners?
She's going to finish off her tankard of ale
Uh-huh.
and slam it down on the table and come and sit with the rest of you. So, awake, is it?
We'll of course take a tankard to Wilhelm's memory.
Okay.
I'm sorry for your loss. I say to
Abelard.
his name Abelard. Thank you.
After she's seen Dagraed upstairs, by the way, Bernie will have returned, and she will actually be serving tankards of the eponymous stout.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we can check out the goods.
Yes,
I'm not sure that I approve of this because we've got a limited supply of that. Is there nothing else we can sell?
You've got 100 barrels of it.
Effectively 100 barrels of it, yeah. 100 small barrels. So basically, yeah, you're dealing with a beer that even if you're not a beer drinker, is awesome. It is legitimately awesome. There are hints of chocolate. There are hints of spice. And there are some elements that you can't place. But those of you who've had it before know that it's easily the best in town, and it's extremely Moorish.
You know, I'm beginning to regret that Willhelm didn't write his will the other way around. I think, Abelard, you got the better deal here.
Abelard is halfway down the tankard and says, it is fantastic, but I'd really rather have my uncle back.
No, obviously.
On the whole.
Well, I say obviously.
You guys were close then, were you? Close with your uncle?
Yes, I mean, my parents were killed when I was, well, about that big, and holds his hand about a foot above the ground. And Uncle Willhelm just took me in. He was my mother's brother, and I just grew up in the business, I suppose. And you know, and as he started getting on a bit, he let me out for buying trips and to arrange selling, and you know, was basically grooming me to take over. But yes, and you know, cluing me in as to who I should and shouldn't annoy, that sort of thing. By the way, the gentleman you ran off. This is to Heamus.
Yes.
That's Piotr Bohr.
That was him, was it?
Piotr. He's the nephew, I think. Although
there's no nephews going around here.
Well, the thing is, there have been rumours. He says he's his nephew.
Mm-hmm.
But well,
the kind of nephew whose mother isn't married to him, but
I gather his mother runs one of his establishments.
Oh, I think I can guess what kind of establishment that is.
But yeah, he's not very nice.
I got that impression.
But I also don't think he's very bright.
I also got that impression.
Sorry, is this Nicholas and Heamus talking?
Abelard and Heamus.
Abelard and Heamus. Abelard is discussing the ratty guy, not the ratty guy, the smarmy guy who was in charge of the thugs. Is you guys will hear now is Piotr Bohr, ostensibly nephew, but there is some degree of debate of Sebastian Bohr.
Some juicy rumours and gossip.
Juicy rumours and gossip that if you actually say them in the wrong bar are going to end up with you having your teeth punched in. You know, that sort of level of
Excellent.
We should invent a mouth guard to protect your teeth from that.
What about your
I'll let you into a tiny wee secret here. I actually do have some experience of dealing with people like that. So, what I think Dagraed and I are going to have to do is probably take the first move and talk to Bohr Senior. Settle all this out, you know, figure out what's happening and where we all stand and make sure that he understands the situation before he gets the wrong idea and comes looking for something that isn't his. But that's something for another day. We don't need to worry about that right now.
Abelard, if there is anything we can do for you, please do tell us.
If we can all work together, that would be really, really useful. And should make us quite a lot of money. I mean, you can see we're not exactly hard up, but yes, I do appreciate that indeed. Right, who's got practice paranoia?
Me.
The one criminal in the room.
Weird.
Criminal only thing, so
Yeah.
I would be
The only criminal in the
room.
room.
We to roll it.
I would
Because
indeed.
Dagraed's gone. Although Dagraed has now upped his practice paranoia from
Oh
Yay!
yes, that's what we like to see. 28 practice paranoia.
Right.
The dice explode just when you need them.
Okay, funny you should say that.
what, the explode?
Oh no.
Yes, in fact. As you are sitting around offering condolences to Abelard and he's trying to clue you in on the general situation and you're all trying to find your stability, there is a distinct tickle at the side of Heamus's face. His sixth sense catches something, a flash of movement maybe outside the window. As the sun is rising, something reflects where it shouldn't.
Why did I fail an awareness check?
And
cry out, get down, and push Abelard to the floor.
Indeed, in time for a small round missile to crash through the window. Okay, so
right.
I will take a reflex order, please.
Is this going to be an initiative situation?
This is indeed going to be an initiative situation.
Cool.
You are looking, those of you familiar with weaponry and armory are going to know that this is a bomb.
Cool.
This is an honest to God bomb.
Can I, with a quick, discern what type of bomb it is? If it's a fire one, if it's a splint one? Like, can I, with like 2 seconds, go, oh, that's that, and arrange accordingly?
Okay, that is going to be. You can make them, can't you?
I don't know. I had never played the system. I hope so. But I
Okay.
don't know.
Are you an armourer? Are you? Which
Yes,
one?
I am an armourer.
You're the armourer. It's actually the weaponsmith. Who is a weaponsmith or an alchemist are going to have more luck. But any of you can try, but that's all you can do. You can't physically move.
So to actually make things, is this a system where you need to know the specific plans, the designs for things? Because I know the potions and so forth.
The process of crafting items, you start with a diagram. If you've got the diagram in front of you, you have +2 to your check. If you're doing it from memory, it's either +2 or you suffer a penalty if you're doing it from memory. Basically, it's better to have the diagram in front of you.
Yep.
But to know how to make something, you need to have had hands on a diagram and either learned it or actually have it in front of you so you can follow the instructions.
How close?
Should I roll initiative first?
Yeah, if everybody can roll initiative, and then we'll take it from there.
So initiative the system works out.
Which button is that on the sheet on Fantasy Grounds? Which button is it?
Right.
Initiative is on the combat tab on the character sheet on Fantasy Grounds.
Combat tab.
On the top row at the right-hand side.
Aha. Right. Okay.
Oh, right.
Initiative
I'm just going to type my initiative out.
Okay.
I got that.
It's basically a reflex roll.
Yeah.
15 for me.
Should we find ourselves using that functionality at a later date, which we may or may not do, the advantage of the initiative button in the character sheet is that will actually assign that initiative to your character in the combat tracker.
Oh,
okay.
right.
Cool. So next time
it can be done manually. You can put the number, or Druck can certainly put the number in manually. It's just that if you are rolling it using the character sheet, that will just assign it straight in there.
Cool.
Right. Okay.
Also, I think I've lost Anil, so I'm going to jump out and jump back in again because this apparently happens.
Okay. Knight.
Yes.
When you rolled, were you rolling for Hadavir or
Hadavir?
Yeah, and hello. I just had an in and out quickly from Felix. That was strange.
Felix lost Chrono, so he's going to come back.
There we go.
Yeah, no, that's he actually dived back in and then vanished. that was.
Even I left.
It confused me. Right. So
Sorry, I didn't roll anything for Dagraed because I was presuming he was already out of the room.
Yeah.
Asleep.
Yes, it was when you said. Yes, it was when you said how close. Sorry, I was wondering who you were talking in context of.
How close is Hadavir to said object?
About 6 feet.
6 feet.
No more than 2 meters.
Excellent. You've said
Blake's
duck.
got a rather worse initiative than
Get down and Zephyr. Blow the fucker away.
I rolled a 5.
Oh boy. So yes, Juniper is there going, what?
What's happening? I'm old. I've only got one eye.
I'm old. I've only got one eye and I've got beer.
At 6 feet away from an explosive.
I'm quite glad for Juniper being here because it meant that Blake wasn't the slowest person in the room. Unless you wish to apply a drunkenness penalty to him, in which case he may still be.
No, not yet. I reckon he's probably in the warmed up stage. Okay, so first person is Heamus.
Indeed.
Highest initiative. What you doing?
I'm assuming that we're sitting around the long table.
That's where I was assuming. Yeah, that's because you said you joined. Abelard.
And this thing was coming through one of the windows. Yeah.
It was. It was coming through the window to the left of the door as you look at the door. As you look out.
Okay. So, that's quite a distance from me, but I am very quick. I have a feeling. Oh, I didn't up my athletics skill, and I was going to. Damn. Are you going to let me up my athletics now with my remaining improvement points?
I'm sorry, that is a bit cheesy, Fish.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. It's what I use for throwing my daggers, so I was going.
Yeah, I know.
But I forgot. Okay.
I will let you do it between sessions, though. But sorry, that is a bit cheesy to do it now.
No, after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Heamus is going to make a dive to try and grab the thing and throw it back out the window.
Okay, I'll take an athletics check then, please.
Yeah. And do I have to declare my use of luck before I make the roll?
I believe you do.
I think you do, yes.
I believe I do, don't I? Yes. So under the circumstances, I think I'm going to add 7 points of my luck.
Wow.
How much luck do you have?
I have 9, including my lucky charm.
Okay.
So let's make this, just for anybody who doesn't already know, down in the bottom left corner of Fantasy Grounds, there is a mod box. You can type a number into that, and that will be applied to the next roll you make. So in this case, I can do that and come out at a 23 because I didn't roll very well.
Right. And the idea was to dive at it and lob it, yeah?
Yeah, basically just get to, I'm assuming dive because get to it in time to intercept it, catch it, and throw it back out the window.
Okay. The dive puts you on top of it. I am going to ask for a throwing skill.
So that's athletics again.
Which is athletics again. But specifically to get it back out the window.
Yep.
And not have it bounce off.
I'll burn my last 2 luck on this one.
Okay. Oh no.
Oh no. It's still an 11. It's not actually that bad.
But unfortunately, you needed a 14.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Okay, Heamus dives onto the grenade, onto the bomb, grabs it, lobs it, and hits.
And then
smack
promptly
in
does
the
the
middle
Jojo
of
Rabbit.
The window frame. Yes, he Jojo Rabbits it. So bringing it round to Hadavir.
If the grenade is still in flight,
it is in flight.
If I was to Zephyr, could that bounce it back out the window?
Out the window, yeah.
Get down and Zephyr.
Yeah. Roll it.
That's spell casting, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's basically you roll spell casting just to make sure you don't blow yourself up.
Apologies to anyone within 2 meters of me. So, Heamus, sorry.
That's actually going to be most of us.
Probably, yes.
Yeah, we're all sat around the table.
Yeah.
Not used to looking for these areas of the character sheet. Bear with me.
No, it's cool. Neither am I.
I wish you could make the text bigger.
18.
Sorry.
No, it's alright.
Okay. that's going to do it.
There is a downside to that one.
Uh-huh.
In that, for everyone around me, that is.
Oh.
Which is?
I've basically just had a massive area effect gust of wind centered on my location, heading out in all directions.
Oh, it's not gust of wind targeted.
No, Zephyr is a area effect.
Right.
The positive part of this is your Zephyr did in fact catch the bomb as it bounced off the central window frame, because we're talking divided panes. After
It was
Heamus
a fantastic shot from Heamus. Large glass pane, small piece of wood.
Yep. Hey, look, I managed to hit the very end of someone's sword twice on Tuesday. Frankly, nothing surprises me. And as it bounces back in midair, Hadavir lets rip with a Zephyr, knocking all of you back.
It's dependent on defense. A number of meters equal to points past their defense.
Okay, your default defense is 10. I'm assuming nobody's actively trying to evade this on the grounds that it's a bit unexpected.
Well, I'm guessing
potentially 8 meters backwards.
Yeah.
Fishy's
I'm assuming that I'm actually out of range.
Yeah. Fishy's lying on his back on the floor going, oh. Right, the good news is the bomb goes straight out of the front window, back the way it came. The bad news is you're knocked back, all of you. 18 roll, so yeah, that's 8 meters. And the table goes over.
On the defense thing, what counts as a defense again?
Reposition.
Can I use endurance, for example, to weather said storm?
Under normal circumstances, no, but for a Zephyr, I would say yes.
I mean,
this is a sudden blast of strong wind.
Endurance is generally more sort of internal. It's pain and drugs and shit like that.
Yeah.
But I did wonder.
Is that a static thing or something we have to roll?
If you're not defending, basically anybody who is conscious but not actively trying to avoid or get out of the way or anything has a 10.
Right, okay. And I'm guessing since we haven't acted in the initiative order, most of us are effectively flat-footed.
Effectively, yeah.
Right, okay.
If you want to use endurance, because that's actually not a bad shout, Fish.
Just sort of brace yourself.
To basically brace yourself against the sudden gale that has hit you all in the face. Grabbing the table.
One, any endurance roll is going to be better than my 10.
Yeah.
Then
I will happily accept endurance as a defense if you wish to give it a go. Comes under body skills.
Yeah, actually, I've got an 18.
Because it doesn't cost us anything to roll it, right?
No, it doesn't cost you anything.
Okay. If we are able to roll it, then I will roll that.
That's a fumble. Oh Jesus! Exploding dice. Here we go.
I'm exploding a lot.
The downside, the only thing it could cost you is if your roll comes out lower than 10, you're going to get more knockback than you would have done
rolled
otherwise.
3 10s.
Wow.
What's going on?
But
hang
wait,
on,
so...
was that an exploding 10s?
Yeah, there's been 3 but now I rolled a 1. There's 3 10s and a 1. What's going on with my dice? How does that work? Please.
31 plus
just
your
on the
endurance
dice.
skill plus your body.
Okay. All right. So the 1 doesn't do.
No.
Go back.
The 1, you're okay. No.
Only the first die determines which direction you're exploding in.
Right,
so endurance, body, and then since I rolled a 1 and then a 7, that's -7.
Okay. Yes.
Correct. So that means I have a 3.
Okay.
43. I'm good. I got this.
Okay. Quail, what did you get?
9.
Okay. So, Jesus wept. Okay. And Loic.
I got a 14, which means I'm guessing that's a 4-meter knockback instead of an 8.
Okay, Loic is going back. His chair's going over backwards,
Yeah.
and he's getting tumbled into the front wall.
Mm-hmm.
Nell just sits there, does the whole stand like a tree thing, and allows the wind to part around her.
I will bend like a reed in the wind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You just matrix dodge a wind.
That's what she's the boy of life.
Juniper is getting knocked off her chair quite hard, and is sent rolling towards the side wall, and is going to be winded when she gets there.
It does also say if your opponent hits something, they suffer ramming damage.
I know. I'm being slightly charitable, however, since I'm not going to kill everybody in the first go.
More to the point, you're not going to let one of the player characters kill all of the other player characters in the first place.
Unfortunately, Dondrick ends up upside down under a table, and is actually going to take some bashing damage.
I think these characters are lying about their names. I think, in fact, that they are cousins, and that we have got here Kara L, who just ignores the wind because she's that tough, and Kal-El, who can fly.
Yes. Yeah, Dondrick is going hurtling through the air and is ending up underneath a table with chairs on top of him.
Cool.
And although he's not actually, I'm not actually going to do any hit point damage because I'm not that much of a cow, because healing is a git. I am, however, going to deem that you are winded and stunned.
That's fair. That's fair.
Stun being an actual condition, which translates to able to do nothing except standing there going, "Tell me about the rabbits."
Not rabbits, please, not rabbits.
All the rabbits.
Okay. And then there is a boom.
Blake, by the way, got the 18 exactly.
So
I'm assuming that basically he surges to his feet, resists the wind, and his chair goes, but otherwise he's okay.
His chair's off behind him, but he's not swaying in the breeze any more than he was normally.
No, he's the same regular amount of sway.
Yeah.
I think we're under attack.
Okay, yep, there was a bang from outside, and the window which was already broken explodes inwards, but there's so little glass left in it that you've done no more. It's not going to be a hazard to shipping. So I'm going to leave that there.
I'm just going to specify one last thing then before you do, which is that on his initiative, near the end of the round, Blake is going to, assuming that you approve this, Blake is going to head behind the bar, because it seems reasonable to me that that's where he keeps his crossbow if he's doing.
Yeah, actually, that sounds fair. You establish all the security details. So you got the shotgun onto the bar.
Yeah.
That works. So yes, seems somebody is not happy with the way the will reading went.
Weird.
I can't think why that might be.
Yeah. So I think we will call that a natural break.
That seems to be.
And yes,
and now it's not going to move at all until next session. She's just going to stand there. Nothing's moving her.
Nell's terrifying. Nell's just there going, "It's fine." She's got all the structure. Knows how this shit works. Okay, so that's it. So the next session of this, and we can sort out how well Dagraed's sleeping. So we'll see. Is
not as the building shakes.
Make it the 8th of March.
All right.
That sounds reasonable.
Yep.
That
looks right.
That looks right. Yes.
Yeah.
That should be fine.
Okay.
I may have to clarify that I may have to miss that depending on what time my flight is the next day.
Oh,
I need to,
Well,
I need to double check.
At the very worst, at least Lurk's not actually here when this happens. So.
Yeah. It should, like I say, it should be fine because I don't think our flight is until mid-afternoon. So that'll be fine, assuming I have packed. But
yep, no problem. If
I'll
you
do
can't,
my best. If I can't, I will let you know in good time.
Yeah, and also you are obviously welcome to have it on in the background and contribute and chat as and when. So that's not a problem. I know I am used to us being used as wallpaper. It's all good. So next playing this on the 8th. So next week I make it Wars.
I do too. Yes.
Yeah. Fun. So we've got an almost working ship, which we're doing to another almost working
you've got 3 almost working ships.
Yeah, we're now duct taping them all together. Right. Thank you very much for playing, guys.
Thank you for running.
Thank you for running.
It was lovely having new faces.
Definitely.
Always terrifying to me, but hey. We are also due to have Spud playing, but he couldn't make it this week, so I'm hoping he will be in at a future date. Because Auburn in this situation could be a giggle. Another criminal. What could go wrong?
I thought you were going to do the traditional late player character entry, and we'll find him bound, gagged, and relieved of all of his equipment in the piglet's basement.
That's still possible.
Tell anybody.
We crack open the bomb and like a Kinder egg, he spurts out.
He is only little. He's only a little dwarf. So yes, I hope you've enjoyed this. I don't tend to run very typical Witcher games.
We still have no Witcher, so yeah, pretty typical. Sorry, pretty not typical.
At least you've got somebody now who can wield weapons. Yes. I mean, he'll wield them very badly because they're my dice backing them, but if you've got one.
Well, I mean, we've proved in the past that both Dagraed and Heamus can wield weapons fairly effectively.
Just about, yeah.
From behind or surprise. So
ideally.
Thank you very much, and I think we have mission night. We will end the stream there.
Indeed.
Thank you indeed.
Good night.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks for watching.